It's better to have a good heart than fast legs.
Oh, that's good. I got a pretty big heart, I think.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Yukiki Ryder.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks, and hey, you good old listener or watcher, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, haha. If you look up Cheap Seat Critics Pod on the interwebs, you'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, um, Facebook, TikTok, Letterbox, because we have graphs and group averages over there. And yeah, we have like updates or little vids or whatever we do.
Yeah. And today, well, we're covering a little known show called the CW's The Flash.
Yeah,
If
I
you're
think
uh,
seeing
I've
a
heard of it before.
Yeah, if you're seeing a
yeah.
pattern here, Ryder might just like a bunch of CW DC shows.
Like might be a strong word. I have nostalgic attachment to them these days. um, Let's see. Well, I guess we can start with our histories first. Why don't you go first, Crimson?
Sweet. Well, my history's quite limited in regards to the CW Flash. I've only seen it the one time for the podcast, the pilot. I did see his crossover with the Supergirl show. The first crossover, if they had more than one, and I liked his interactions with Kara, and he seemed pretty decent in there. And in terms of the Arrowverse, I've seen the pilot to Arrow as well. Season one and a half of Supergirl, I think. Maybe two seasons. Don't recall. That's about it.
I forgot how far you actually got into the Supergirl show.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, they made some interesting decisions with that show.
I'm sure they did. Sprinks, you want to go next?
Sure, I've seen the Flash pilot maybe 4 times now. I've seen the first 3 seasons of the Flash. I dropped out in the fourth season when Plastic Man was introduced because I did not like him. And I've seen a bit of Arrow. I've seen a bit of DC Legends Tomorrow. I've seen a little Supergirl, Black Lightning. Feel like there's some I'm forgetting, but yeah,
Naomi, Stargirl.
yeah, nope, nope, nope. When it
Were
came
we?
to DC live action TV shows, I'm a big Gotham guy.
Yeah.
So
Were we roomies at the time when I showed you when we watched The Flash?
we sure were.
Was that okay? Yeah, that gets goes into my history. I have seen for the Arrowverse. I've seen. Let's see. 5 seasons of Arrow. I stopped pretty much in the same spot Springs did for the Flash. I've seen the first 2 seasons of Supergirl. I've seen 1 season of Legends and 1 season of Batgirl, which was one too many. Wait, Batwoman.
That
I have to
woman.
clarify. Yeah, sorry, Barbara. Um, uh, but yeah, which was 1 season too many for Batwoman. But yeah, no, yeah, that's pretty much a history. I've seen the pilot for the Flash, maybe 6 times, like with my full attention on it, and then I've seen it more than that with not my full attention on it because the first few seasons of Arrow and the first seasons of Flash kind of just became good background noise shows for me, so I always kind of played them on repeat in the background while I was working on other things. So yeah, I've seen it plenty of times. Uh, and with that, I can roll us into some facts if y'all are interested in that.
I do
Yes.
like some facts.
All right. All these facts are off the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. Some of them are from direct interviews, but those ones you don't have to take with a grain of salt. But I am taking it off the internet. Tom Cavanaugh, who plays Harrison Wells in the first season of the CW show of The Flash, initially was not interested in the role because he has played scientists characters before, and he was in the process of like turning it down. Except the lead writer and producer evidently pulled him aside in an enclosed room and told him the twist that happens with his character. and that eventually solidified him to play the role for the foreseeable future. He was very interested in it after that. Realized he got to play a few characters at once. Got to stretch his acting chops a little bit. Um, I believe it's Barry Allen's father in the show, John Wesley, who played the Flash in the early 1990s show on CBS,
Oh,
uh,
That is true.
which is a nice connection. So Barry Allen's dad in this show it was the previous incarnation of the Flash.
Which is a
Uh,
very meta joke that they do with him later in the show.
oh yeah, they double down on it. It's pretty funny. Um, the actor, the main actor, the lead role, Grant Gustin, who plays Barry Allen, used to star in Glee on the Fox network. He played a recurring antagonist, and he gets to stretch some of his music and dancing chops later in the show.
he was a bad guy, huh?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was one of the preppy kids from the other school, like the private school.
Oh, he was a bully type character.
Yeah, kinda.
Well, I could sing better than you.
They're all in matching
Anything
outfits.
you can sing, I can sing it better. I can sing anything better than you.
there are there's a lot of crossover between the Flash and Supergirl. One of the reasons that they ended up doing a crossover between the shows and why those two universes eventually started coming together is because a lot of the cast members were college roommates. Uh, Cisco Ramon, the character Cisco Ramon, played by Carlos Valdez in The Flash, was big friends for Chris Wood, who played an L character, Mon El. I think I don't. The Superman kryptonite names, Krypton words are weird. But they were roommates in college, so they were good friends. And I think that's all I got for some basic uh, facts. So I will turn this over to anyone who might have facts of their own.
I do not.
Zilch.
All right, then. We shall dive into the episode itself. We're doing a 3-act structure. We're going to do popcorn within the act, so you can go anywhere you want between the opening of the show and the time skip when Barry wakes up from a coma. Spoilers for The Flash, that should be a given, but you know.
It's been made. There you go.
All right, Springs, you want to start us off?
Sure. Sure, I sure can. Hey, I recognized the 14 years ago font immediately.
Okay.
Why?
That is a big noodle tilting font used in Overwatch.
To be honest, I would not have expected for the CW Flash to be connected to Arrow or Overwatch at all.
Oh, what year did this come out?
Oh, 2015, I want to say.
Oh,
2016 sounds about
that's
right. So
before
it's
Overwatch.
possible.
That's before Overwatch 2016.
Oh, I actually have a great question to ask before we get any further. Crimson, did you pick
Oh,
up any color theory in this episode?
if you're talking about yellow and reddish orange, um, I guess. I
Okay.
don't know. If you bring up examples, I'll say yes or no.
Okay.
Nothing I wrote down.
Yeah, nothing you wrote down. Just you saw a lot of those colors.
Yeah,
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm
I'm
sure you're
curious
gonna have
who else pick up.
plenty of things to point out.
I guess same question can go to you, writer.
Um, let's see. Color theory. I think there's a lot of filter uses that help with color theory, but not nothing that's related to outfits specifically. Other than Barry's always wearing red somewhere on him.
Okay.
Those are
Yeah.
the main
Arrow's
ones.
green,
Well, red.
because he's rich and money's green, so
Oh,
it's obviously
okay.
Yeah, no,
showing
you can ignore
his
Crimson. He's just
misfortune.
spitting out of his ass right
Yeah,
now.
still something
Green is
spitting.
a symbol of wealth.
Yeah.
So,
or luck,
Okay.
but
so those who haven't seen Arrow, seeing the character in this would be like, you know what? I think this guy he's a rich guy. So they delivered a lot off his appearance.
Okay. Well, about red in the color theory. So just to put it out there for you, it's a very hot color, and it has two situations depending on negative or positive sidings with it. In a more associated with negative, there's fire, violence, warfare, blood, fire, danger kind of um, connotations to it. However, in the more positive side of red, there's strength, passion, confidence, love, and I can't make out my handwriting. So, yeah, strength, passion, confidence, and love.
Okay. And does that mean anything?
Well, I don't. I couldn't find a part in this episode at all where Barry isn't wearing red.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Writer also pointed that out. Um, I'm sure that was intentional.
yeah. I do think it's intentional as well.
So good
Um,
on the costume department, I guess.
Okay.
uh, all right, Crimson. Do you want to pop it away? If Springs is wrapped up with
Oh, just
color
find it a
theory,
little interesting that Crimson says that's a good thing on costume department. The consistency that for 14, 9 months, so about 15 years that we see of Barry, he's always in red. And that's a positive.
I don't see why not. I mean, I wear something black on me almost every single day, whether it be my shoes, my shirt. I have black pants. It's not completely out there that people gravitate towards a particular color in wardrobe. So I don't see that as a negative.
Okay.
it's for those who are pervasive and no. I really can't words today. Which is bad. The Yeah, for those who like study color theory for fun, there's a lot to pick up, or I suppose for that with regards to Barry, because it's a subtle foreshadowing before he becomes the Flash and after he becomes the Flash.
So the fact that you brought that up, Sprinks, sounds to me that you see it as a negative that he has red on him.
No, not to me.
Okay.
I see it as a good detail in costume department.
And you were surprised that I complimented that then?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, it
you were
doesn't seem to
saying?
be a topic you usually focus on with uh, means of like the positive or likeness side of things, especially color theory with you.
I can add a little bit more onto your color theory, at least of red springs before we move on. Um, Joe and Iris also have red on their outfits when we were first meet them in the show. Iris has a black jacket over a red shirt, and Joe has a red dotted tie, or has a red tie with white dots on it.
That is true.
Uh, to go with what Sprinks was saying, I don't see him having red on all of his clothes as color theory. Um, for me, color theory is theorizing what color signifies and whatever you're covering, be it wardrobe or props. I don't care. Whatever you're pointing out a color on, you're theorizing what it could mean. Them sticking with a color scheme for a character is not color theory to me. That is just a creative choice to stick a color theme to something.
So the examples I gave with the meaning of color theory for red, you didn't see in Barry's
That's
character.
color theory. I could attribute that to literally anybody. Anybody can have passion. Anybody could have fire in them. Um, I need direct, obvious correlations other than he has red, therefore passion is attributed. Oh, he has some passion or kindness to him. He's a good guy. Of course he does. So no, I didn't connect those two that way. No,
Well, all right. Uh, if that's if for color theory, at least for now, I'm sure it'll come up
I'm sure it'll
again.
come back up. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got
Uh,
another color to cover.
yeah, that's
Going
true.
forward.
We do. Crimson, do you want to go on a
Sure.
point for yourself?
Uh, Towards the end of this act, we have Joe, and I wrote Detective Turney in my notes because he was a detective in Person of Interest. The
Shocker.
partner that ended up dying.
Yeah.
Uh, they both go to a barn to investigate the robberies and look for Martin, and enter the premises without a warrant. Terrible, terrible jobs. They had no uh, reason to enter the premises. So there you go. They're terrible cops.
Well, in that regard, they did it 4 times because it's the 4th and last barn location they had to look at from what Barry gave them.
Were they
Uh,
they weren't
I,
abandoned farms, right?
well, no, they were being used. That's how they were able to track because the medicine
Yeah.
they feed the animals, so they were in production farms.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I have an issue
I,
with that because it would be issue. It would be. I mean, like they could go to the owners of the place and then ask permission. They're like, oh yeah, go ahead, and they could have just driven back around that way. We don't really see that though. So
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not going to assume they broke into all four. I'm just going to go off the one we know they did. Uh, so they definitely broke into the fourth one.
Yes. I'm with you on that, Crimson, that they didn't break into all 4 necessarily, doing that they left during daylight, and next time we pop into them, it's nighttime, to go with a kind of clever usage of a time skip on their part of the story because of everything else going on to get them to. It's a little, cliche. It's like, oh, the last one they found is the one they needed, but if the other ones they went to were during the day or operating hours, seems easier to talk to someone in charge than barge in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they don't necessarily need a warrant; they just need permission. So I'm not inclined to think they broke in, but I'm inclined to say we definitely don't see them ask permission.
Yeah. They didn't get permission, therefore entering the premises without it would be requiring a warrant. So kind of
No,
goes
I'm saying
hand
we
in
don't
hand.
we don't see them get a permission, but they could have gotten it by a phone call, for all we know.
Or 2 of the
Well,
farms are under the same contractor owner or something, so
Oh,
one
that could
allowing
that
than
could
the
be a
other.
thing too. But I'm in agreement that they should have shown it because it does come across as they broke in pretty much, which is not good for cop characters.
mm,
Uh, all right, I will jump. Funny enough, to the beginning, um, or
that's
close to the
unlike you.
beginning. Yeah, I know. It's a little after the beginning. I'm not going like first scene. I'm going to jump to Barry investigating at the beginning here. Uh, the this is good, and it's obviously meant to show Barry's intelligence. However, why is there just a pile of dirt in the middle of the like a urban road
Fecal matter. Come on,
from a
it stuck to
tire?
the tire.
That
The
entire pile of
the
dirt?
entire drive.
Wow,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
how
It was
violent.
stuck on it was stuck on the chassis, and it shook loose, and they drove over it.
Yeah,
So
the best faith interpretation I could come up with for this is I think it shows like there those little garden outcroppings on the sidewalk with trees in them. So like the idea that the car had parked up on that first.
well, I mean, it's fecal matter. It's how they tracked it to the barn.
No, the poo on top of the dirt was fecal matter, not the dirt underneath. I'm talking about the dirt pile.
What was it? Two different substances? I saw it mostly
Yeah,
as
there's
turds.
two different substances. There is the poo that he used on that he collected with the pen, and that's on top of a pile of dirt that he used to measure the width of the tires. It's just dead ass on an urban road. Like if it were in the middle of nowhere, that would make sense. But this is like an urban city.
To put my 2
Yeah,
cents in, couldn't tell you. I don't know. It's
I
not
mean,
like
my complaint.
I was gonna say it's not like Sandman blew through and or some other meta humor left dirt or
Birdman.
something all over the place.
Yeah, it can't be that because this is before the explosion.
Well,
Yeah, my complaint with the scene was something that happens a lot in showing these smart characters deducing scenes because I've seen a lot of procedurals and stuff, and there's always one that is super smart and can read a scene, and it's always something so hyper specific. The These tires are specific to this particular car. It's not a generic brand tire. It is specific to the Shelby car, this high-end vehicle that they decide to heist in. It's so absurd. Just to, just so uh, they can show how smart Barry is, and apparently he knows every single tire in existence. Uh, so good on him
Yeah,
for that, I suppose.
yeah. Don't worry. I'm building up to that point as well, Crimson. I'm just laying the
Okay.
groundwork here with the tie with the issue with already with the dirt sand pile in the middle of the fucking urban road.
Good faith interpretation is there was dirt and grime stuck on the car because they are at a farm and it shook loose at that point and it got driven over. It's not impossible. It's not quite probable, but it could happen. It's very convenient for that to happen.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, I think outside of those glaring issues with obviously the hyper specificity for Barry's intelligence and the convenience of I guess the sand dirt or whatever. Uh, I do think outside of that they do a good job of character building for Barry in like his social awkwardness and Joe's care for Barry, like with the scene for covering him without needing to be prompted or asked to do so.
Yeah, I liked the whole candy bar bit. That was good. And of course, the fastest man alive is late all the time. So, yeah, hilarious.
I wrote in my notes they better not overuse that joke. I'm like they can.
Uh,
It's
I'm okay with it.
did they?
irony.
You think they did?
No,
Overuse um,
very
fast
lateness.
fastness stuff? Oh, I thought you were saying in general overuse of like the term fast or something in a non-direct fashion.
I see what you
Like
mean.
like with the opening quote, the a good heart's better than a fast legs. Like that's not a really that's a shoehorned line to connect things. And I feel like they did a lot of that in this pilot. To be like, he's going to be the Flash. It's funny little things here. I feel like they overused that stuff. I thought that's what you were.
No, just the Barry, you're late. Barry, where have you been? Or like if they just kept
Yeah.
doing that and he goes, man, I wish I was faster. I'm like, please don't do that.
Yeah, they do the joke of Barry always being late without necessarily drawing it out. Because I think the police captain gives a good excuse. Where like Barry, the captain, his dialogue with the captain during the investigation scene was very very clearly a he's used to Barry's giving excuses for being late.
He's used to it.
Yeah. Uh, funny. It was before we leave that scene entirely. I have a funny little note of it. When Barry finally runs up, he runs specifically to two people he's supposed to go in between in the background. Pretty funny. So like right before he goes into the scene, like comes into the scene, we see him in the background. Pretty much walk him. We pretty much watch him walk in like a curve to go between two people to get to them. Where he could have just where it would have just been easier for him to go in a straight line, which is it's kind of funny.
We got to show how disheveled and uncoordinated he is because he bumps into a lot of people in the in this.
That's
Okay.
true.
A lot being twice, but that's if I had a nickel for every time.
You'd have two nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird to happen twice.
I think the use of humor, of not having a car excuse, the chocolate bar, and the dead cop's, like the dead father's cop pen thing,
Mm.
I think those all help balance out the trauma that we just witnessed beforehand in the previous scene of Barry's mom dying.
I suppose I mean, at least the scene or the feeling of the show, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be some drama involved, but there's also going to be some comedy.
I don't think it was
So
overdone. I don't think it was like too funny of a scene or too many jokes to try to
Yeah.
uh,
balance.
it was all realistic enough. I could
Yeah.
see those happening in real life. Yeah.
Yeah. They do a good job of keeping the humor contextual to the situation. It's not like a zinger gotcha kind of joke, which is nice. I like it when humor's it's a personal preference for me. I like it when my humor's grounded. It makes me laugh a little more. All right. Well, Sprinks, is that your point, or would you like to take jump us to another scene?
Oh, I can go jump to another thing. Just a detail to keep up. Um, which is I the color theory a little. When Barry's a kid, he's in a red jacket and red backpack. So just a little detail there.
And
Um,
red pajamas.
and red pajamas when he goes downstairs. However, uh, I'm gonna not. I have something written down, but I'm not gonna share it because I think it would be spoiler for further knowledge. But it's also my knowledge on the Flash I have as a comic guy, um, which could come up later in the show. So, however, when Barry wakes up at night to go downstairs, we see that his aquarium has the water floating, or the
Yeah.
liquids, the gravity is being pulled out. And we're shown immediately after that it's the cause of a speedster's presence that's causing it. An active speedster using the speed
Um,
force.
yeah, I don't remember fully if I think it's supposed to be more Speed Forcey than it is supposed to be connected to a speedster specifically.
Okay, the presence of the speed force being used.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
because again,
is that what the lightning was? Was the lightning speed force? Because yeah, the whole floating liquids during the lightning strike as well.
Yeah, that's why I said I think it's
that's
implied it's supposed to be related to the Speed
yeah,
Force rather
that's
than
the
the
connection I was
speedsters.
gonna make. Is that the second instance of floating liquid? There's not a speedster around, and the speed force isn't tampered at in that event. It's the particle accelerator storm cloud. And if
Mm.
that is speed force in the lightning to affect Barry from the particle accelerator, that means all metahumans affected are connected to the speed force, which I don't think is accurate.
Well,
Comes to me being limited knowledge. I don't know what the speed force is, even though I know it's heavily tied to the Flash and stuff, but I don't know specifically what speed force is.
I know what you're getting at, Springs. I don't think so. Um, because it's sort of again, it's implied that with Arrow's introduction at the end, it's kind of implied that the Bolt chose him. So like the Speed Force chose Barry. Uh, and then we have the other facet of it being manufactured as well, which is spoilers for the rest of the fucking show.
Well, is the speed force an entity?
In the show, yes,
Okay, then I guess that's just that. So the speed force chose using the particle accelerator cloud lightning to strike Barry
yeah,
because it's also the use of the chemicals and the forensics that are all encompassed to make him
yeah,
Flash. It's not just the lightning bolt.
yeah, but they don't really dive into the mechanics and how the Speed Force functions until I want to say season 2 or 3. But no, the Speed Force definitely has its own agenda and presence. It's like it's an entity that functions in this universe.
Okay. And all those out there listening, I am a fan of and knowledge of the Flashpoint paradox, which I'm going to try to refrain from not talking about at all. Because I know this story, I mean, it already shows off this story is different than that.
Yeah. Crimson, you got a play you would like to jump to?
Sure. Speaking of the lightning, it's it kind of annoyed me when everyone was like, "How do you survive lightning?" Like, people survive lightning all the time, guys. I mean, it's
Oh
not
yeah, when they say that that's
impossible.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the doctor's reactions to how is he alive after that was ridiculous. It was obviously
It's
to play
perfect
up the
drama. Yeah.
astonishment of it, but
Benjamin Franklin isn't in this universe.
It's apparently not.
yeah, so that was too much for me in terms of exaggeration.
Yeah, they. I'll say this: comparing the two, because I'm gonna compare it to Arrow's pilot, because that's the obvious one to compare it to. I think Arrow has typically better grounded dialogue than the Flash does, though they get across a lot of the same points. I think uh, the Flash plays up the melodrama just a little bit more. So in your example, Crimson, I would say yeah, that's the writers in the Flash playing up the drama a little bit more.
Mhm.
Let's see. I would like to, as someone who's a fan of the Arrowverse continuity, I'll go to my point real quick. I'll jump to just before Dr. Wells gives his speech to open the particle accelerator tonight. Uh, they reference Barry's trip to Starling City. And I appreciated the connection because it would be acknowledged by other characters in the universe that he was gone for a week, essentially, where he had his introduction in the Arrow show for an episode before the CW universe became crossover obsessive.
Okay, that was something I had questions about when we got to that part.
Okay. Did you want to jump into them right now?
If you like, it's out of act, so if that's cool.
Wait, to Arrow?
Yes.
Yeah, we can say that to the end. I'm referring to their reference to a different time he met up with Arrow, because they reference his trip to Starling City in before the particle accelerator exploded when they're visiting when they're doing when Dr. Wells is having his opening night. And the reference to that trip they're making is because Barry made a trip there without his superpowers, like before this all happened, and he ended up working with Team Arrow to solve a case in Starling City.
Yeah, he was talking to Iris about it.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
it's a nice throwaway line that keeps continuity for the universe. I appreciated it.
little tie-in.
Yeah, but yeah,
Uh,
but for your stuff specifically, Sprinks, we can save until the end.
Okay.
uh, so for me, I'm my Flash knowledge is quite limited. I haven't read any of the comics. Most of my Flash is from Injustice. That's most of my Flash intake. So very limited. And I didn't know Warren. No, not Warren. Harrison Wells. Oh, I said Warren. Harrison Wells didn't know his name. The moment his face showed up, like, okay, this is a bad guy. And I had to guess who because I know some Flash villains, uh, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I don't know if that's considered a spoiler or not,
Well,
considering the
There's
ending of
one
this.
they
But
automatically show you in the show. I mean, the character's not there, but
yeah,
the cage is there.
so I don't think they did a good job if they were trying to disguise the fact that he's
no,
probably a bad guy.
they're not.
Okay.
The end of the episode really just gives it away.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're absolutely not
oh,
trying to
I
hide
have
that he's a bad
issues
guy.
with that, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, here instantly got bad guy vibes, which was unfortunate because that just made me view every single thing he says as bad guy thing instead of oh he's just a nice scientist.
I wouldn't call him a nice scientist. He's just a bristling scientist.
Well, he wants betterment of the world. He wants to look for cures. That's good stuff.
Who's the
Yeah, but he's willing to sacrifice people to do it. So
okay?
you know.
Who's the scientist that
Well, we didn't know that in
combines
the beginning.
with the guy
No,
to make
we
Heatstorm?
what?
Who's the scientist who combines with the other guy to make Heatstorm? Is that his name? Heatstorm?
Firestorm.
Firestorm.
Firestorm. I don't know.
Professor. I was about to say. Funny enough, I was about to say Professor Wells. That's wrong. Um, I
Just saying the
don't
use
know.
of what they did with DC Legends of Tomorrow with that that's just another example that unfortunately Crimson hasn't seen. So it's not like comparing that. If that introduction would be like, oh, that's a bad guy because it
Professor
was
Martin Stein.
okay because it was kind of not antagonistic, but more realistic tones to situations going on before the combination.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know until I see it. And you probably knew the character going into it, so you probably saw things coming with his introduction, I would imagine, right?
Bits, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. Good point. Maybe don't know.
I was looking up the name. What was your point, Springs? Because I think I lost your point while I was looking up the
Oh,
Another
name.
connection of a CW used DC character that's like Harrison Wells, where the introduction to the character could be seen as what Crimson just said on a first introduction, but like later
Oh,
down. Sorry for
with how they
spoiler about.
specifically use him in the show.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that.
but Crimson
He's
is unaware of that character, so
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Uh, okay, uh, let's see. Who just went?
you. Well,
I can go
I guess I
again.
did.
But
Crimson, you go. There you go.
Okay, I'll go. Uh, the whole plane thing was.
I'm gonna play
Uh,
the catch.
well, yeah, I'm glad he told us that, and I wasn't expecting the plane to be right there. I thought it was gonna be like, I got a plane to catch. He runs away, and they're like, okay, he's got to go to an airport. Let's hunt him down. And that was going to be a whole thing, wasn't a thing. But I don't know why it blew up because we see the shockwave through the city and nothing happens,
Yeah,
and only the plane blows up.
I'll be honest. I don't know what blows it up either.
the plane blowing up, don't know. Its power going out
Also,
would be okay.
Yeah, I would be fine
yeah,
with
yeah,
that if it
I
was
would
like
have
an
been fine with
EMP
it just
thing.
stalling and just falling, flat. But let's be honest, I don't know how Martin Stein survived. Clyde Martin survived that either.
I'll just say his weather powers he got granted him an invulnerability. Done.
Temporary invulnerability.
I have no idea. Uh,
He got feather falling.
He got feather
yeah,
falling boots. That makes sense. That's kind of funny.
and blast
Uh,
protection armor.
yeah. So yeah, I agree. No idea why it exploded. It would have been fine if it stalled out. There are a couple things that explode in this episode for no reason.
Oh, the car.
Foggy
We'll get
car.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I totally agree.
There's a line that
I
Iris says, I think during her first interaction with Barry, where she comes in and says, "Okay, I'm ready to see this Atom Smasher smashing."
Mhm.
I couldn't tell if that's just an Atom Smasher tongue in cheek or an actual in-world reference to Atom Smasher.
It's definitely a nod.
It's
That's
not.
Okay.
not
I
in
don't.
universe.
It's not in universe because I think there is an Atom Smasher eventually, but he's not in the universe at this point. So it's just tongue in cheek, and it kind of works because that's what particle accelerators are. They smash atoms together. So it's in this case it's very literal too. It's a
They
layered one.
fit it in.
It's true. It works.
And
um,
Barry's wearing a burgundy sweater.
that's true. I think we talked about this when we were watching the show Springs. We really wanted to try Big Belly Burger at one point, which is the
I think so,
in-universe like
yeah.
Five Guys restaurant.
Yep.
um, I'm kind of running thin on my notes here for the first act. So I'll throw out another one, and then I'll turn this over to you two. I think for a little bit longer, if you guys wish to. Wells' speech, little on the nose with the whole "the future will be here faster than you can think."
Yeah, fast.
It's faster than you can think. Plus, with the reveal at the ending that he's from the future is kind of it's a little on the nose, but I guess it's funny.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing when they wrote that. That's for
That's
sure.
true. Uh, My notes are funny. Okay, my notes says literally "oopsies" with the particle accelerator. That's how I described it in my notes. That's funny. All right, Sprix, you got a point?
Yes, it's a very public area for a theft to break out, but then again,
Thank
it's
you.
very crowded
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
thief to kind of like blend in with the crowd to slip away. So that was kind of very 50-50 for me. What I didn't like is when Barry went after him, there was just a wide opening in the crowd that was just shoulder to shoulder during the speech for both of them to just run to the back.
Well, yeah, they parted the Red Sea there. The
yeah.
blame.
I agree. I hated it.
It was so dumb.
It was
I, I,
really
I
dumb.
agree.
There was no security either, which bugs the shit out of me.
No security. No, I mean, none of the people even try to help. They don't try to trip them or anything.
Yeah,
They step
No,
out of the way for a perfect aisle, as Springs said.
I missed the part, but that's my
Uh,
problem.
yeah, and the whole chase sequence was dumb to me.
yeah,
Give me the laptop.
Nothing was good.
It's literally getting a little closer. Just whack them with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And can't forget, it's also lucky and convenient that he just happens to steal Iris's laptop out of everybody's there.
Yeah, just to involve Barry and running.
Yeah.
Also, Iris
And
was running along with them to catch up. We don't
she
see
never
her,
leaves the
but
building, right?
when Barry, when the guy's like climbing over the fence or whatever, Iris is there with Barry.
Oh, interesting. Well, and
Well,
then we get
good for her.
the
I
intro to
mean,
Eddie. Oh,
yeah, we got an intro for Eddie, and I guess good for Iris. It kind of makes sense if she chased after them because her dad's a cop. We get a part where she complains that she wasn't allowed to be one, but it makes sense that she'd still not skip leg day, I guess.
Yeah, and then Eddie with the line, "You're not faster than a bullet." Is that a Superman reference? Faster than a speeding bullet?
Uh,
or them just
yeah.
saying another fast thing again.
That's a common phrase used to Superman. I wouldn't be surprised if that is intended as a kind of a wink, another tongue in cheek wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know if you know,
Yeah, with Adam
because
Smasher previously, I'm like, I feel like this is like they're
it could
still.
be. Yeah, I definitely don't deny it. I think the Atom Smasher is a little more on the nose. This one's a little more ambiguous, but it could definitely fit that, which is probably why they kept it, intentional or not. Because it works as Eddie being being good and threatening to.
Yeah. Also about Eddie, we get his name. His full name is Eddie Thawne. Is that related to Eobard Thawne at all?
I don't know, Springs. Is it?
I don't know. That's a question for Crimson.
See,
I
it
don't know,
comes down to me not
Crimson.
knowing names.
Yeah.
What's the character name? What's their villain or hero name?
Oh, Crimson. Eobard Thawne is aka Reverse Flash from the future,
Oh, I know that character. Huh, that's
from the
interesting.
25th century.
I'm sure that's just a nod.
Oh, could be.
No connection whatsoever.
Yeah. Crimson
Yeah,
got a point.
I was more on this laptop. It actually
Oh, go ahead.
it was so poorly executed that I thought it was going to be a plot point. I thought someone was hired to steal her laptop for some reason, and it was going to be a whole plot point, and it wasn't, and that made it atrocious to me.
It's so much worse for you.
Yeah, I was like, okay, it's so bad because the guy had to get her laptop. That's why it was so clunky. No, he didn't have to grab her laptop. He could have grabbed other people's wallets, which would have been a lot easier to lift off of someone. No, some schmuck stealing a laptop right in front of everybody in the middle of a crowd
They're
and
also
running immediately.
pretty close to the stage.
Oh, I just saw a shot because I'm rewatching the background. There's a shot. There's a bunch of security around. That makes it so much worse.
Yeah, they just move out of the way.
Yeah, this seems horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. Funny enough, Crimson. I also agree that I this time around I was just curious to see if there were any clues that to see if uh well you already know Harrison Wells is a baddie. So I was looking for clues this time to see if Harrison Wells had hired anybody to steal Iris's laptop specifically, there's nothing. So you'll be
Nice.
delighted to know that you're still correct.
Lovely. So,
um,
stinker of a scene.
yeah, I
But
agree.
with Eddie, another character I recognize, and both of you should. Do you guys recognize him from anything? The actor?
Anything? Oh, the actor. Person of interest. I don't know.
No. Come on,
He's one of the cops
Ryder.
in
You got
Leverage.
anything? No.
The coffee and the cream. Uh,
You know who's the coffee and the cream, okay?
yeah, he's the one that's got a crush on Hopper. Parker. Um, no. I don't know.
Ryder, did you finish looking it up?
No, I'm not. Okay, I'll look it up.
No, I mean I
He's
got it.
he's in Fringe. He's one of the scientists in the background in like season one. He's
Oh, oh.
uh
Actually, for some reason you tickled my brain with that. Springs, he might be in Fringe.
Um,
he's
I
he's
know, I
in
know, I
Ash
know,
versus
I know
Evil
where I remember
Dead.
him.
He's one of the
Now that
Deadites. He's
I'm looking at this list here, I know exactly where I remember him from.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, uh, I remember him from Quantico.
Oh, there you go, Quantico. You both watched Quantico. One watched more of it than the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I talked about that while we were watching Quantico. I forgot he was in that
I
show.
watched season one of Quantico, and I think I can only recall 2 minutes of the entire screen time.
Oh, yikes! Sounds like we need to watch that again.
No,
No, you did a good job, Springs. That's what you're
no.
supposed to do. You're supposed to delete the show after you watch it. I agree.
Season one's not that bad. All right, two and
Hey,
three.
sorry,
We
sorry,
watched it
audience. Whenever we
together.
cover Quantico, we can go into that.
Yeah.
We can go over a long torturous history as Crimson dragged us both through that show. It was fun though. That was my
Yeah.
my Riverdale experience with Crimson.
Who knows? Will that be in this season? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Um,
Uh,
yeah, but
s-
I'm looking at his list. He's also in Castle, but I don't remember him in Castle, so I'll leave that to you guys.
oh, I thought you didn't watch Castle.
Don't ask me. I'm not the
Yeah,
big Nathan Fillion
I
guy here.
haven't. I've seen bits and pieces of Castle. I would not say I've
Oh,
watched the show.
shoot, I don't remember him in that. Oh, he would have been a one-off guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Anywho, back to Flash. So the power surge from the particle accelerator made a blackout, but the TV screen or whatever on his computer monitor that Barry had in his forensics lab went out before the particle accelerator went off.
I think the whole yeah, maybe like you could signal disruption would happen first before power outages in that theory. I'm not too angry with that. Did this computer just shut off completely or did it freeze?
Shut off completely. It
Oh,
went
then
black.
that's weird.
And then he
Yeah,
looked out the
yeah, that's a
window and
little
we
weird.
could see all the lights on all the buildings on before the wave hit them to black it out.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Uh, I got one a little thing I actually liked. Throwing something here that I quite enjoyed. I actually liked that Barry Allen explaining what the particle accelerator could do for science with the whole dot on the see-through whiteboard.
This is what we know. This is what we will know once it succeeds.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's him being smart and nerdy and quirky, and it's kind of it's not like
It's
it's
digestible.
giving. Yeah, it's getting information across to the audience who wouldn't know what a particle accelerator is from a character's perspective on what a particle accelerator is.
Yeah. Especially with the visual aid later with Harrison in the computer really showing. That's all.
Yeah.
Also, that cork board Barry has, what color's the string connecting things?
The
Okay,
what?
that's freaking ridiculous. Don't even. He's talking about the red string that every single show and movie ever that has a connecting dot board uses.
Oh, his murder board. Got it.
Talking about the red string
Yeah,
that
it's a red
connects
string.
everything.
Barry's using
It
a red
is a red
string.
string. It's good observation, Crimson. Good observation, Springs. No,
Also,
I'm
all
with
the
Crimson. It's more of a generic TV thing.
okay, I'm like the bigger stretch I thought was when Iris and him are talking and she's like eating his fries, talking about wanting to go to Star Labs. The kind of clear whiteboard behind Barry is a bunch of numbers and everything written in red pen.
It's another stretch, but yeah. Uh, all right. Is that it for Act 1, gentlemen?
Yes. The only thing I had was like, why was the liquid floating before the lightning bolt? But being
Oh
that
yeah,
the Speed Force is an entity was present at that time, it's okay with me.
Well,
yeah,
there's also the element of lightning where your hair starts to stand up and gets staticky before the lightning even strikes. So that there is a phenomenon that happens before lightning strikes. And since this is a special lightning, I'm not too worried about that.
yeah. I'm fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
My last point in this act would be Iris and Barry's talk about him thinking about a relationship because he's
oh
not been in one. And I wrote brother zoned hard. Um, she is very
yeah.
oblivious to him.
Oh
At least
yeah.
that's what I read into it.
Hardcore.
I don't know if later in the show she's like pushing it aside, her feelings or not. But at least in this scene, she's completely oblivious
I want you,
Oh
to
yeah.
babe.
almost
You want
a
what now?
ridiculous degree.
Yeah.
But
It's down.
I do
That's
like their
definitely.
banter though, their chemistry. I did like that throughout the pilot.
Yeah. They actually have good chemistry throughout most of the show. I would say. Um, their chemistry is actually pretty good. For I'm thinking, trying to think ahead now without spoilers. For most of the show, they have good chemistry for most of the show.
I can agree with
Of
that.
what
Up
I've
to
seen.
season 4.
Yeah. Again, it's not their fault. I still think they have chemistry. I left the show for other reasons at that point. um, but yeah, no, they got good chemistry, and yes, Brothers owned very, very hard. Um, I was curious. Did you guys find that a little too on the nose, or were you guys okay with the dialogue?
Hey, I'm okay with it. But Crimson's got the big love situation going on, so that's a bigger question for him.
I mean, it's they've been friends since they were kids. It's definitely a believable relationship. I can believe Alan falling for her, and I could believe that she would eventually feel the same way for him if she starts looking at him that way. So, in terms of a romantic relationship, I could see it. They built the groundwork just off the lines. They've been
Yeah.
friends since childhood. In terms of the dialogue, I don't think it was that bad, other than how oblivious she was, because it seemed pretty heavy what he was implying as an
Yeah.
audience member,
Yeah.
and I feel like a normal person would pick it up too. But
Yeah.
that would be my only complaint on it.
Yeah. I yeah. I mean, funny enough, I know plenty of people who don't pick up on that stuff. So I'm I was just curious to get your opinion on it. I don't have an issue with it. It's there to deliver information for the audience mostly, and it's also in character perspective information. As you say, she's very, very oblivious to Barry's feelings, which fits. Uh, which I guess my last thing to say before we go into Act Two is Iris was the first person to make it to the hospital for Barry, which is uh not really a major thing, but I just kind of appreciate that would be the first to show up because her dad's out in the field
It would be
still.
amazing if Barry's dad showed up. I broke out of prison for you, son.
That'd be
How you
wild.
doing?
That would be wild, very wild. It'd be
Especially
even
at the
wilder if it
9-month
was
mark. Or
yeah. It, it'd be even wilder if it was Ezra Miller's prison dad.
Oh,
Flash.
oh. Um,
who
yeah, I mean,
knows?
Barry doesn't really have anybody, at least based off this pilot. It's just Iris and Joe.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much what it's supposed to be in the sense of you got the implication that they were raised together because Barry did live with Joe and Iris. Joe and Iris took them in and he lived with them for quite a while, which helps into why he has feelings for Iris.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, gentlemen, we are going to go into Act Two, which is when Barry wakes up in a coma in Star Labs, to when he realizes he wasn't the only one affected by the particle accelerator,
Okay.
or when he gets angry about being.
This is related
Yeah.
on the subject matter, but I just have a question for Crimson with his knowledge he shared earlier, so I guess tied to his history. Crimson, can you name 5 Flash villains?
Um, 5. That's outside my scope. I got 3 off the top of my head. All of which are an injustice, so you can deduce who those
Okay.
are. Did I say their names?
Sure.
I don't
If
know.
you could
Okay.
name 5, but
Yeah, we got Reverse Flash, Gorilla Grodd, and Captain Cold. And then yeah, that's I don't know if Deadshot is or if they just pinned him against him in the games. I don't know. Deadshot's
Deadshot's
kind of
a
like a freelance guy, kind of goes
Deadshot's a villain that shows up in for multiple
villain,
DC
hero to
characters.
hero.
So
So
okay, interesting.
kind of like Deathstroke in that regard. So yeah, 3 that I know of.
Okay, so Clyde Martin is on that list.
No,
Okay.
at least based off his name. If you say his villain name, if you're implying he turns into a villain, uh, then maybe I'll know the name.
See, that's where I'm a little confused because I know there's a character that can do weather, but I don't remember if that's Clyde Martin.
what's their name? Prince.
Uh,
Their villain name.
yeah,
You don't need to go.
I'll say the Wizard, but I don't think that's right.
That's a
Weather
stupid
Wizard?
name.
Is it Weather Wizard?
I don't know. You don't. Yeah, I thought you were confused that you don't know you don't actually remember their villain name either.
Not off the top of
He
my
was
head.
wondering if I knew
Oh, okay.
the name of the villain, probably, or hoping I would. I don't know.
I remember. I think I remember.
I'm not familiar with the Wizard or Weather Wizard. So.
I
Oh,
think
it is Weather
Wizard.
Wizard.
Oh, sweet. The only reason I guessed Weather Wizard is because that's what Cisco nicknames him.
Well, there you go. There's a nod.
Uh, and to be fair, the first one that dies in the pilot is not the Weather Wizard. Spoilers.
It's not the right name.
It's not the right one.
Nope, it's Clyde.
Clyde.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, there's brother. um.
Okay, I was just
Okay.
curious on how many villains Crimson would know.
All right. Well,
Like I
Crimson,
said,
do
I'm
you want to
quite
go to?
limited.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll go with something. Uh, Piggyback off a point I made very recently of recognizing people. Uh, Either of you recognize who the girl Caitlin?
Caitlin
Caitlin
Snow.
Snow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
I
recognize.
do. Yes,
Okay,
I do.
you want to time it?
All
Three,
right.
two, one,
Sky
go.
High.
Sky High.
There we go. I'm glad you guys got that one.
I can tell you
Lila.
why. When I
Why?
was watching this with Ryder for the first time, I think I went, "Who is she?" and looked her up.
Yeah, I was egging him on that entire time because that's one of the few characters I actually knew because my Sky High, funny enough, was my mom was obsessed with it, so I ended up watching it a lot because as a result, so I found a lot of enjoyment with it.
Yeah, Lila.
Lila from Sky High.
Of course, Crimson likes it. It's a Kurt Russell movie.
It is a good movie.
Oh, and Bruce Campbell.
uh,
Yeah.
one of the little character things I actually quite liked in the opening of Act Two once Barry's freaking out and waking up. I like the exchange, the very fast exchange of dialogue that we get for all the characters here. It quickly characterizes that Caitlin is very much clinically oriented, while Cisco is more laid back and personable. And I actually quite like that Cisco corrects himself when he's not introducing Caitlin as a doctor. It's very, very small, but the exchange of dialogue here I think is extremely well done.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'd say extremely well done, but it was well done.
Okay, yeah.
You want to go into your criticism of it then, or examples? I guess.
Well, I usually don't um, assign things such high marks like that in general. So that just goes down to both of us using words differently.
Okay.
It's rarely that you'll see me saying something is great. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that on the podcast. I rarely use the word great on anything
That's
or
true.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
I tend
Frosted
to
Flakes and
avoid.
Spider-Man don't come up a lot.
I tend to avoid uh, the word perfect when I'm
True.
describing
Yeah.
things,
It's a
and then I
fictitious
tend
word.
to there's a few things that could achieve that word that we just haven't covered. But yeah, I tend to avoid the word because I'm kind of I understand where you're coming from. I have a lot of room for hyper specific things, so I'm willing to call this dialogue great. Whereas I can label other dialogue as just middling and lower tier stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Back to you, Springs.
I'm fine that Barry, after a 9-month coma, can recover so fast to be functionally walking around and conscious
Yeah.
or whatever. It's just like, oh, that's just his healing.
Yeah. His regenerative cell growth stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
too worried about that. The only thing I had with it was how brazen he was when, because he's supposed to be smart. He was excited about this whole particle thing, and I feel like even though he misses Iris or is concerned about her,
you
he
think
would
you'd be a little
consider the
more starry
scientific
eyed?
implications
Yeah.
of what's happening when they're like, we don't know what's happened to you. We got to go slow with this. A bit more acknowledgement from him with that would have been better. And oh, I'm
Yeah.
good. I feel good. And then he leaves the. I feel like that was not enough.
I agree. This is actually getting into the point where one of the few because it's a lot of episode one is just characterizing characters. I think this is kind of a twinge on Barry's character. Being a CSI and his obsession with science, he would be a little more starry eyed being with Dr. Wells because he's a was a looks up to him, respects him, and even if he's like, yes, I know that this is important, I'll be back, but I want to check on my family. That would be enough for me.
That would be better.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like because he just says I need to go without saying I'll be back. Because because even if the promise to come back would acknowledge his insight to recognizing that something is special going on here, and they need my help or they need me for things. So that in of itself could be inferred from promising to come back. And the fact that he doesn't, he just ups and leaves. I do think it's a bit of a twinge on the scientific aspect of his character that we've been built up to this point.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Sprinks?
Yeah, yeah, I can go with that. Also, my
Uh,
notes here. This is, I think, the only instance where Barry's not wearing red when he's in the sweatshirt.
the Star Labs shirt.
Yeah,
I think you're right. At least for the first episode. Uh,
because it's blue.
yeah. I do like the joke about the shirt though. Can I keep the shirt? That made me smirk. It's an acknowledgement that he's a fan, but it's still not it's not a replacement for
Yeah, he
and then
cared
we
more
got
about the shirt than himself.
yeah, pretty much. And then we spotted an Easter egg of the Grodd cage
Yeah,
during this sequence, which is more world building for this particular universe and
it shows that
the
Grodd
Flash.
was could be experimented on in Star Labs itself, being that a
Yes.
cage is there present.
It's kind of ambiguous, even later in the show, where Gorilla Grodd was experimented on. Though it's implied that General Eiling and Harrison Wells had a falling out, and Grodd just ends up at Star Labs by the end. And then Caitlin obviously feeds him and takes care of him.
Yeah,
Used to do that. So probably he was at Star Labs for most of it, but it's a little ambiguous as to where exactly he was experimented on.
anyway,
Uh,
back on the blue, just a little small. Being that he's in blue, the theory of blue is calming, relaxing, and trustworthy, which would be in the name of Star Labs on his chest, as well as harmony, wisdom, and spirituality.
And I like what I said before. And you think that's applicable?
I think the first half, the calming, relaxing, and trustworthy, in blue on Star Labs that's overcompassing the entirety of no red visible on Barry of his first kind of interaction with Star Labs is to be, he's kind of panicking, but it's like you can put your faith and trust in them, which eventually he does.
See, that's my whole issue with color theory is attributing things to seemingly nothing to me in this regard. Because if we have a character who is at a construction site and they're wearing orange with an orange reflector vest, right? Pretty standard issue for safety. I wouldn't then go look, okay, what does orange mean? And be like, oh, it's obviously attributed here because orange is present. It's standard gear. A bluish hued uh, gown, robes, whatever the scientific stuff they used here. It's pretty standard. It would be weird if it was a rainbow shirt or something. It's something you would expect to see in this. So I don't attribute theory crafting around the color because the color itself makes sense for the scene it's in.
Okay. The way I see it is this whole show, or sorry, this whole episode, see Barry in red, so he's the representation of red, and those connected to him like closely, which is writer's example of Iris and Joe being having a little red on them as well, connecting to him. I'm like, okay, so he represents red, and what's the representation of red in color theory? However, in costume department and situation, this is the one time in the show where he isn't wearing that red, and red is not seen on him. So something's overlapping or taking a bigger image onto him in this time. And what color is present? It's that blue. So it's purposeful to me, or to me, I see it's purposely chosen. Why is there no red in this scene? Why is it covered up by this? So I looked into it, the reason for.
Because if he was in a bright red gown at a medical table, that's not standard. That is
No,
peculiar
no. But why isn't the Star Labs sweatshirt like burgundy or darker red or maroon or
because that's not standard either.
It's a gift shop thing, is what would be my guess
yeah? There could be
of
multiple
what it is in
color.
the
There could be
universe.
like 3 or 4 colors, like gray, a pitch black, the blue that's shown. That's just how
I
I
can
saw it.
send that
It's
info
to
if you
me, I saw it as a purposeful usage of a different color.
Um, let's see. I don't know if yeah, I don't know if I have any strong feelings on this particular color theory one, but to attribute, I guess, more, I guess, of what you're seeing, Sprinks. I think I didn't necessarily attribute his sweater. I was thinking more about his environment in that case. It has like the walls kind of like have a blue overhang hue. The floor has a blue hue, I think, to it as well. But
pretty
thinking
blue
about that,
area, yeah.
yeah. But that's also can't. Well, I was about to say it's standard. It's not. I'm thinking of all the labs I've been in. Um, uh, it's. Yeah, I mean, like it works. Like I said, color theory is. Well, to kind of explain to you, Crimson, real quick, of my version of color theory. Color theory reminds me of themes and storytelling. Technically, you can attribute whatever theme you want to see with it, whatever you're watching, but it's personal how you interpret those thematic elements, if that makes sense. Unless it's overt, like it is in the Last Jedi. Sorry, Ryan, I hate to pick on you, but you were very oblivious, or you were very blunt with it in the Last Jedi. Um, so that's how I view color theory typically. I'm always like with themes. I'm always willing to hear them out because it's just usually it's someone's personal interpretation of a scene as to why they were used, or in the same way that themes can be personal for storytelling and art in general. So
Gotcha.
um, yeah, uh, I remember when when Barry first shows up at Jitters, the coffee place that I would like to visit because Jitters sounds like fun. I could not help but think, wow, this is a very big CW moment with the
Is
way the
that a big
music,
Yeah.
CW?
yeah, with the
Oh,
way the
music.
music picks in as Barry's walking through the door and Iris sees him. It's a very CW feeling moment of the show. It makes sense. They would obviously hug each other. I don't have any character issues that I just thought the tone was very much
I
modern standard CW.
I kind of had that same feeling when he goes back and sees Eddie there with Iris.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like
Obviously, the
this,
two are supposed to be kind of juxtaposed a
yeah,
little bit.
trying
It's
to
very
get in
CW.
this high school lovers triangle drama, shoehorned in somewhere.
Yeah, I'm assuming you don't have any hard thoughts on that, Crimson.
I felt it more with the Eddie one, but I can certainly see it.
That's fair.
Uh,
Um,
I was it could just play into the stupidity of the character, but why did Clyde give a quiet warning to the teller that there was a robbery when immediately he got offended by I guess it was a being offended by her question that it was a joke to then just reveal his powers and make a lot of noise in a scene. Why even go
I
in
thought it was just.
quietly is
I thought it.
interesting.
I thought he was just being extra. To be honest, I have.
Yeah, I don't think
I didn't even see the thing of him getting offended. I just saw him just trying to give a cool reply. I just saw him as a villain trying to be extra. To be honest.
yeah, a showboat.
Okay.
Oh, this is a joke, and then shows how much a joke it isn't. I mean,
Yeah. And with the whole god complex he's got going on, I can believe him being a showboat.
yeah,
Okay. I guess with the God complex, I'd see him more as thinking he's invulnerable to things. Like he'd just fly in, arms crossed, and just, blow all the money into a bag or something.
I mean, to think you're a god, you have to have an ego the size of a god. So
Yeah, I guess.
There's multiple
showboat
ways.
can definitely connect to that.
Okay. I'm like, this
My
farmer boy seems more of just like, I got power.
the who
Clyde,
arm
farmer boy here.
farm. I think you said armor guy. I'm like,
Yeah,
who the
I
heck's
heard
armor
Armor Boy
guy?
too. Yeah.
Farmer boy.
Farmer boy.
He
Okay.
doesn't come across as a Magneto, all powerful, like, I can do what I want.
Yeah, but
Not
Magneto
to the
doesn't have
outside, but he views himself as that.
does
And he
Magneto have
called
a god
himself a god.
complex?
That's a good question.
I would have.
I would
Yeah,
say
Depends
he
depends on
does.
the iteration.
yeah. I'm thinking of the Ian McKellen one. I don't think he has a god complex. He is definitely a
Kind
power
in
complex, a little bit of one,
in the
but
first movie, he kind of does. The first X-Men
um,
movie of like, rid out all Homo sapiens, mutants got to take over.
It's not
I
really
don't
a
think
god
that's. I don't think
complex.
it's a god complex. I think that's just a superiority complex.
Yeah.
I do differentiate the two because superiority complex can be attributed to more like you view yourself as a superior being, but not necessarily a god. Um,
I agree.
Okay,
it's
I just saw
yeah.
reshaping the world in an image of your own could be a god complex, but
Is that what he says? It's been a while since I've seen X Men One,
Well,
so
well, he's just
yeah,
trying to
he wanted to
convert
get rid of
all humans
normal
into mutants.
humans.
yeah, okay, yeah. I don't see that necessarily as a god complex. It can be a part of a god complex, but I don't necessarily see all the other traits that would make it up
Okay,
in
and
that
then
version
of
of
course he
Magneto.
changes a lot more and just
Yeah,
Yeah, because with a god complex, there has to be a certain ego element contributed. At least that's my understanding of it. Because for Magneto, in that he didn't want to do that for himself, he wanted that for the betterment of the mutants. So it was a self righteous goal. It wasn't a selfish goal.
so I guess going back to the bank robbery here with Clyde Martin,
Yeah,
you took away more so him being angry and offended rather than the whole god complex like ego thing.
I did
Interesting. All right.
because I don't
I
know.
can definitely see I
Yeah,
can definitely see your interpretation, but obviously I lean more the god
because
complex
I'm trying
kind
to
of way
think,
with
what if
it.
he went in, showed that to Teller, and she was actually really scared, and then she just gave him the money? Then no power would have been used.
No, he'd probably use
probably still
power
would have.
to. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know why she would be scared because there's security and stuff around. It wouldn't be the first thing that she jumps to.
Well, it would be if she knew his face, because he was
Yeah. Oh,
a
that's
known
true.
villain.
If she was familiar with his face, then yeah, I can sort of see her being scared.
Um, yeah, my bit with that scene was escaping me this second. What the heck? I just there we
Shadows
go.
to
Got it.
glass above.
It no. It was 9 months. He's been undiscovered for 9 months.
He's been robbing
What
banks
has
for
he
nine
been doing
months or years.
without anyone? Without using his powers? Without anything? He just.
The
I think
Also,
he would.
Joe believes he's still not around after what Barry says.
Yeah.
He's dead, so he's been
yeah.
hidden for 9 months.
My best assumption is he was recovering, A, and B, he was learning how to use his powers. Um, but we
It
don't
just
really get
happened
anything
to
to.
coincide with Alan waking up.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the issue comes in. There's as they point out later on in the show, there have been other incidents, but they focus only on Barry, at least at Star Labs. Um, so he could have been, and he just kind of went out of city first to rob banks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's convenient, I suppose, that he's been unheard of. I guess all this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Just happened to show up when Alan wakes up.
Yeah,
Conveniences.
conveniences. A lot of because all the metahumans start coming out of the woodworks pretty much at this point. They're in the universe of the Arrowverse. The Arrow team has dealt with their first metahuman at this point, uh, as well. So it's kind of coinciding with them coming out of the woodworks, but it's convenient in the sense that they all came out of the woodworks like after a specific point in time, which is when the Flash is awake. Outside of the Arrowverse specific example, the Arrow shows a specific example. So I attribute that more to a world building issue than a Clyde Martin issue, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about the shot, but Harrison Wells putting on sunglasses during the test just looks so cool.
That's exactly why they did it, I'm sure.
I agree. They look cool.
I also,
What?
and this is not, I don't want to tickle the memory here of Crimson over a school
Don't
report
give me
him and I
PTSD.
shared. Yes,
Oh no.
there is something, I can't tell what it is, and I couldn't fully pick it up, but there has got to be a reason behind it. The use of Harrison Well and glasses in this whole episode.
Oh God.
He
I
is
know what you're
constantly
saying.
putting his glasses on and off, and then the sunglasses is one part to look cool. There's parts where he's just wearing them to begin with, where he's not wearing them to begin with. Don't know what it is. I don't know if it's to play like a different perspective of seeing things. I don't know if it's his flop between thinking of his goal from the future of what he's doing here in this timeline versus what he's doing to prep Barry. I couldn't fully connect the dots, but I'm like, this constant glasses on and off throughout the whole episode is got to be something.
Frank's completely unrelated question, and you can connect this to whatever you want. Do you think a banana taped to a wall has any meaning behind it?
Yes.
Thank you.
So you did tickle my brain too, Springs.
Well,
Because we
earlier,
had the discussion about this,
okay,
like
in the
when we were watching the
past,
show itself.
what I tickled Crimson's brain here. In the past, we both did a coverage of the movie Catch Me If You Can by Steven Spielberg with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. And throughout that film, there was something with Tom Hanks's character in glasses. And Crimson thought I was
There
the
is something
biggest.
you picked up. I'm
Crimson
not going
thought
to
it
say
was
there's
the
something is.
dumbest possible thing for me to pick out to write a whole like 5-page essay on. And something about this with Harrison Wells just feels similar. Anyway,
Um,
writer, with what you were going with.
yeah, I will remind you what our conclusion was. We think it's related to his alter ego.
Okay. Because he has no use for the glasses. Doesn't need them.
No, but every time his alter ego is somewhat invested or involved in the scene, we decided that's when his glasses get taken off.
You said he didn't need sunglasses?
No, I mean, sunglasses just look cool, but his actual glasses he's wearing,
No.
he doesn't need, especially with the last shot at the end.
No, the sunglasses, he knows what the Flash looks like, so he was expecting a bright light emitting off of him.
Oh, it was protecting from lightning
The
shooting out of speed?
Flash's light.
Sure. I like that thought on it.
If you want to attribute anything,
So what I'd take from the Crimson, you didn't see anything with Harrison Wells glasses.
no.
Probably not.
Okay.
No. uh, yeah, Crimson. Do you got a point?
Sure. My massive, massive disappointment in this episode is how they just, to me, spoil the bad guy. Even though it was obvious to me who it was, but in I'm not talking about the ending. I'm talking about
The
Claymore?
setup to the
visual
ending.
the visual we get. Oh, there's a yellow man in his flashback. That there's actually someone going on there. Why? Why the heck are you showing this in the pilot? I I don't know how the season progresses or the show as a whole, but I feel like that is something you would hold on to a little bit and not just drop the ball halfway through the episode. Because
It's supposed.
in the
Yeah.
beginning, I did write in my notes because I did notice it was yellow and red going around the mom. And like, okay, this is Flash versus Reverse Flash. Uh, I wrote that down. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a plot point where it's going to be some big reveal later. Don't know how, but it will be. And then halfway through the episode, oh, he actually saw Reverse Flash in there. I'm like, why? First off, he'd be too fast to see. Second, why creatively would you do that? I don't. I feel like that was a dropped ball.
Not too fast to see when he stands still for the younger Barry to look at him. But
Did he stand
Yeah.
still?
I mean,
No, he's vibrating.
he's
No.
Quote
vibrating.
unquote vibrating in place. Whatever. It's not. He's not standing still. It looks like he's just moving really fast, but his after image is staying in the same spot.
I can
Yeah.
see how it would definitely make the show, I think, stronger for those unaware of anything with Flash. If we didn't get that till later, to actually think the possibility of Barry's dad killed him, killed her, killed the mom, because that immediately tells you right there. It's like, oh, he's probably innocent.
Yeah. There are the reason behind it, Crimson, I think is nothing to do with like the actual uh well, it's a writing choice they made in the show, but I honestly legitimately think it's just to keep people hooked into the show. It's meant to be as a hook. Their focus is more on the melodrama rather than like uh I guess would be plot oriented structure. Because it's definitely a different methodology. It's just kind of go straight into, oh yeah, he's clearly the bad guy.
They didn't need to do that because
Yeah,
the dad's already set up as the killer, and Barry the whole time could just be like, "No, there was something going on. I saw something." It didn't have to be "I saw someone." It could just be "I saw something," and it would
yeah,
still
Does
come across.
yeah. I agree. The reason that they do it for the show, dramatically speaking, is because they want to toy with that idea more directly.
does adding that add more questions to an audience of not knowing anything? Like, rather than just the
Um,
takeaway question of like, oh, did Barry's dad kill the mom? Let's find out. I don't think he did. Maybe he did. Maybe, that's the question. Now with the proof, it's like, how are they going to prove his innocence? Who is the yellow man? Was that Flash? Like, does it add more questions to get someone more invested in the show?
I
I
would
don't think
say
so.
I would say yes if people don't know who the Flash is. It works more in that direction because my experience with the Flash before this show was pretty much the early 2000s Justice League uh, stuff. That was pretty much the my Flash experience. So I had no idea what his backstory was up until the advent of this show.
Then you also bring up, I feel like we covered something where you brought up like you were more familiar with Wally West than Barry
Yes,
Allen.
Wally West. Wally West is the Flash from the early 2000s Justice League stuff. So going into this, I didn't have any knowledge of who Barry Allen was, and thinking on it now with retrospect, they definitely could have How best way to phrase it? They make use of their choice in doing this in the first episode, Crimson. But I'm also on the side with you. They could have also gone other routes with their writing philosophy as well. So they definitely do it with a purpose, and they continue with that purpose into the series. Um, but they don't necessarily need. They didn't. They could have gone a different direction. Is pretty much what it is. So it's I guess, a different writing philosophy. And then I guess with what you wanted and what they chose to do. Because I don't know if I necessarily view the choice in of itself to reveal that now as a mistake. I view that in the lens of uh I view it in the lens of like, okay, they've taken away a lot of their options essentially for drama by making this choice, which is not necessarily like, a bad thing. It's just I'm noting that this is the direction they made, so they make use of it. But I definitely see what you're saying in the sense that yeah, I agree with you that they've taken a lot of away of their own freedom of choices as well by doing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with it.
It also
Just
kind of guarantees
okay.
eye candy to those who are familiar with Flash.
Yeah,
The
because
eye candy would have been the yellow streak. That's what I took away from it. Uh, Anyone familiar would be, oh, this is Flash versus Reverse Flash in the opening bit with the mom. That's the eye candy. That's the if you know your stuff, you caught something. Just putting it out front like that wouldn't, I think, grant any satisfaction for fans because they would have already figured it out by that point.
I wouldn't know. I wasn't a fan at the point.
Well, that was going off of what Franks was just
Yeah, yeah,
saying.
I
Yeah,
know. I'm just getting my two-bit before you guys continue
Yeah,
down this conversation if you choose to.
it's just, yeah, it's a little too much on the nose of actually just showing him there in the flashback.
So
yeah,
I
because
guess
it
I
would
mean
have
you're
been
sorry.
at some point. I imagine he's going to go back in time and recreate that whole scenario where he's fighting Reverse Flash. Um, and it would have been nice if we had this whole memory thing where he's going back and thinking about it now that he is aware of himself being the Flash. He, uh, him not seeing a person would be great. Him seeing that there is a direction with the lightning, though, would be enough for him to figure out that there's a force creating the lightning going on in the bedroom or living room, and it would be a good investigating now in his head based off of new knowledge he has of his current abilities, and that would be a good thing they could have gone with, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely, like I said, they removed a lot of their options by going with this way, going about it this way.
I don't think it's worth what they did. Like, well, what are the positives they get out of it? Sprinks is hinting at it. It gives more questions for the audience, and I'm not really sold on that.
But that
Yeah.
only
But
goes
I
for the
is there
mean,
audience
anything
of new
else other than
knowledge.
that?
without getting into spoilers, they really like to play with the melodrama dynamics that come out of it. Um, because uh, yeah, that's pretty much all I could say without going into spoilers. They get a lot of character stuff out of it. You can see the interplay of doublespeak and a lot of that going on. Um, that's pretty much what they get out of it. And to be fair, the the actor does a great job. But that's pretty much what their focus was on, I think.
Oh,
So, was it worth the payoff? Probably not, is where I would lean. Though I still acknowledge that they, I guess, achieved their goal with what they got out of it. All right. Funny enough, on that, kind of jumping off from the Barry scene, talking about remembering he saw something and thinking that it was somebody like him. Just want to say it's funny because he didn't see himself running. So how would he know what he looks like? I'm joking, of course, because they probably videotaped him running, but it's just funny.
I
well,
see.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
was a thing I had too with the the headset it was given. But Sprinks, you were saying something there.
No, I see what Ryder's saying.
Yeah, it's more of a nitpick in that Barry didn't see himself running, and that's he. We don't know what triggered him from his memory, but or why he thinks this is somebody like him or somebody that can move like him that he saw in the past because he hasn't seen himself run yet.
That's true. And he didn't see the yellow man run either. You guys said he was just standing there vibrating, right?
Yeah, it's a
There's a
weird after imagery
portion
thing.
of that
Yeah,
quote unquote fight around the mom that he just stood there vibrating, which is what caused the scene of Barry seeing him in there.
Yeah. So to Barry, it could have been that guy had lightning powers or something, not
yeah.
not speed. Um,
So it's a bit of a jump, but
yeah. The two-way headset plus mounted camera device that was given to him by Cisco. I didn't like that at all. I don't know why the lightning bolt was there. He goes later with the suit, like let's make it look cool. But this headset part was very cheesy. It
yeah,
was
it's a little
obviously to
too
go with
soon
the
for
red
that.
outfit he got.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it would have
just
worked better with the ending if that's when it was introduced. I don't. It definitely wasn't didn't need to be here.
yeah. And then there's the scientific aspect of how fast he, I would imagine, gets at some point further down the road in the show, where soon he's going to be faster than the traveling of his headset. So and the visuals not being able to read what he's going through because he's faster than the frame rate of the video and all that stuff. That's a bit more fancy technobabble
Yeah.
stuff.
Uh, Sprinks, you got a point you'd like to jump to?
Yeah, I'm thinking of what was just said. I think the lightning bolt thing is cheesy. I think the use of it is okay by me because I don't know many instances where Cisco would be able to use all the toys he makes and works with at Stars Labs, rather than just in the lab himself. Like I don't think Caitlin's the one to test things out with him.
I'm
So
fine with him making the headset. It's the lightning bolt part.
yeah, the
I'm
lightning
saying.
bolt part.
Yeah, it would make sense to me if he was inspired to make the lightning bolt from this first scene, and that's how it ended up on the suit at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, because at this point, does he? I don't remember. Does he believe in the super speed at this point, or is he optimistic about it?
He's just optimistic. He
Okay.
hasn't seen. They haven't seen it yet. The only person here who quote unquote knows is Harrison Wells.
Well, I'm not saying that he knows it. It's like he believes him wholeheartedly with the super speed, or is he just optimistic about it?
I think he's
I
just
think he's
he
just
hasn't seen proof,
optimistic.
so he's
Yeah, he is. He's
optimistic.
just optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
And
it's revealed later in a flashback that you know there's something to do with
Cisco's allies with
Cisco's seen stuff, or
Harrison.
he was actually the little boy across the street looking out his window when when Barry's mom died.
Or Barry just likes light. Or sorry, Barry. Cisco just likes lightning. I don't know.
Who
It's,
knows?
but yeah, yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna agree with Crimson. It's a little. It'd be one thing if, like I said, I would have much preferred he introduced it with the suit at the end of the episode
Hmm.
than here because it's a little too early. He hasn't seen him run. He doesn't know what it's about. It's very. It's a little cheesy. But
Something I'll touch on that's cheesy, maybe to the fullest, is Barry shoulder bashing a car window to sit inside the car while running.
yeah,
Doesn't line up.
no, it doesn't. Considering he hasn't learned how to vibrate through objects yet.
Oh, he just opened and closed it quickly.
No,
Uh, that's what he should. That's what the show should have shown us him doing. Yes. The
Not
best
enough
I
to
can.
infer it for you.
Yeah. The best I can. The best I can assume for that scene is him just shoulder bashing to like jumping in through the window. But that momentum would have carried him all the way in rather than just into the seat.
yeah. And if it was to get into sitting, I mean, even without momentum, it would have had to be feet first in through the window.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good
It's
camera
it's
trick.
clunky.
Yeah, it's a good camera trick they did of like how quick the cuts are to get to that scene. But
Yeah.
in actuality,
Logistically, it's
no.
there's a few issues here. Uh, yeah, I'm in agreement. It's fair.
Okay.
Good camera work to kind of hide it, I guess, but still some logistical issues.
And then that car explosion.
Yeah,
What
well, first,
prompted it?
well, hold on. Before the car explosion, why did the car just get suddenly turned over?
Well,
It just turned the wheel really hard.
yeah. And the
Yeah,
momentum of
that
the car speeding at that angle flipped
yeah
it.
that
That makes
yeah
sense.
that can happen. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just running that by you guys first because, funny enough, the reason I brought it up, Sprinks, is because you and I argued about this our first time we watched the show.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I'm not
He
that
knows
always
more about
right.
science
I
now.
guess I don't know.
yeah, no, like I said, I'm. You guys have my position on it, which is yeah, I can see that happening. They turned it, especially since he did it in like flash speed.
Yeah, I've seen movies and shows where they do that exact same thing. High
Yeah.
speed vehicle, sharp turn, flips the car.
All right. But yeah,
I'm
then
not sure if MythBusters did that before. Um,
Mythbusters there's a lot of car stuff. I'll have to
I don't
peruse
remember.
their catalog again for to see if they did do it.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, car explosion for reasons.
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Uh,
fog got in the engine.
no, it looked cool. Obviously, that was the point of
I
it.
mean, yeah, but it's Michael Bay level.
Yeah. It's also a very bad camera angle too because you can clearly see just no one's in the car when it lands.
Well, they jumped out right before because they saw the terrifying fog and like, well, my car's not worth this.
I know. Also, the
That's true, maybe.
car's on a side angle when the car hits it, so I don't think it has the rampage or whatever to go upward. It would have just hit. Nothing is to
Yeah.
make
Correct.
it go up.
What you're seeing
It's
just
the Resident Evil 5 Jeep. Okay,
Oh, that had
uh,
hydraulic press.
you didn't take into
I,
account that.
we also got to take into account that it could just be a metahuman with some gravity powers. He just saw too late the
Oh,
you
one of the
know
cops driving the car.
no,
Oh,
it wasn't a cop car that went over. It was another civilian car
Yeah,
that
that
went.
was the
oh, it
villain
was the
car.
villain. Oh, oops.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, it was a metahuman with the gravity powers, and he just saw the other car too late. So he was in the middle of ramping the car up, but it was too late. You know.
Hmm,
Could be.
crazy.
Look
Yeah,
cool, but terribly done.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. The part where the cops about to swerve into Iris and Alan was really stupid.
Hilariously
Uh,
dumb. Yeah.
I don't know why it happened
Nor do
because
I. They were ahead of Clyde Martin.
they were in front of them. They didn't get
Exactly.
hit. They didn't get hit, so they didn't swerve out of control because they got hit. Uh, what do they call that maneuver where you hit the back corner of the car? I don't remember what that's called. Uh, shoot, whatever. That
It's
didn't
not a
happen.
T-bone, right?
No, no, it's got a it's a something maneuver. It's a technique, but that didn't happen, which would make sense. But they didn't do that.
Yeah. Clyde Martin
So
did not do that to the police car. No.
so the cop just wanted to run over a couple people. That's what I have to gather from that.
It's a
So
GTA cop that made it to the CW verse.
Aren't they one and the same?
Maybe.
Sinner.
criminals everywhere.
Uh, yeah, I agree. It was very dumb. Uh, I thought it was weird that Joe just kind of lays into Barry for taking Iris on a walk.
Oh,
That was well.
you you warned me about melodrama going into this writer, and I think this was peak.
Yep.
This is
Protective
yikes.
father in the face of danger or situation like that with them being that
Yeah.
close. That I
There
can
is the
understand, but the reasoning behind of like never do this again,
So
don't do that
unreasonable.
because that was unreasonable.
yeah. I mean, there's a reason I would have been happy with him being angry because he's irrational when it comes to family. That is a character trait they keep consistent throughout the show. But it's they carry it a little too far. He's blaming Barry for something he has no control over. Lashing out at Barry over the Clyde Martin thing, I'm a little more okay with. But
I'm glad that Joe actually heard Barry out, like took him
yeah,
aside and
me
didn't
too.
interrupt him.
It's true because that's why he sighs when he sees the police sketch. He's like, God damn it.
I
um,
didn't get how Joe was pretty much saying how he has a hard time ever believing Barry on any of his theories, which seemed quite outlandish to me.
y- yeah, the only thing that's kind of missing from this pilot is that we get with his introduction in the Arrow show, before he comes back to Central City and has all this adventuring stuff. Is that Barry is someone who goes out to try and solve impossible cases or fantastical cases purely because of what happened to him as a kid. So the my best faith interpretation is they just have expected you to watch that episode to know that Joe is fully aware of Barry's habit to do this. And obviously and we have Iris's throwaway line that her father having been mad that he went to Starling City without saying anything. So there is stuff there to support it, but it's very much like you were required to have seen other things in order to understand it fully.
Yeah, that's really bad. They didn't even try to hint at that
Yeah,
in this.
it's not in the show at all, which is very weird because that's like an integral part to his character.
Yeah, well, what we get is him being super proficient at a crime scene where he's able to identify a car and easily track the car to a barn because of
Yeah,
poop.
Well, that was
yeah.
before the
So
9 months of a coma.
yeah,
Well,
and
that has
same with
nothing to do with what I'm saying.
I'm saying what the healing went over that aspect of his brain.
huh?
That's not the problem.
That's not relevant to our point, Springs.
Oh,
No, the point is Joe implies he has a hard time believing any of Alan's theories. And what we get out of his first theory is 100% accurate. So, and they use that as he can't believe him that Clyde's alive and the whole weather stuff because it's crazy by itself. But then they try to back it with like Barry has a bunch of flawed, failed theories, but we never get anything out of that in this show.
Yeah. Um, a lot of it's like I said that the most of the majority of that theory stuff is done in the one Arrow episode that he's in before like the Flash show starts. Because to kind of give you a hint where that episode is, he's in Starling City. He's basically back in Central City for a week before the particle accelerator explodes. The Arrowverse episode pretty much ends when he gets struck by lightning. Um, and then that's when obviously the timelines sync up. But the point of this is that that episode is where all the crazy theory stuff is because he took time off of his work at CSI to come investigate a crime in Starling City as a consultant because it's a unusual crime. It's one of those impossible crimes that happened, and Barry wants to go solve it because his drive. Part of his drive as a character is to go after that, which could have helped explain Joe's uh, perspective on impossible theories. But if I'm treating this episode in isolation, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then
So
the jab about his dad didn't need to come through in this either, just heightening the scene.
yeah,
It's yeah,
Joe's Joe does fully believe it at this point that his dad is the murderer, but he would not be cruel to Barry because Barry is his son in all but name.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing to spark that topic in this argument. It started with why is my daughter out here in danger because of you, and then the crazy theory. None of that links to the dad being
Yeah,
uh,
unless he's brought up to
like
Joe
criminal.
before that he saw people like moving in lightning or whatever, but we also don't get that in this episode.
Mhm.
So they said there's groundwork, but it just comes out of nowhere for Joe's character because the groundwork for it is obscure in another shows.
Yeah, I just wrote in caps drama. That's
Yeah,
most of my notes for that scene.
yeah.
And then, of course, the Clyde sketch shows up right after the argument's over.
That's why I love the look on Joe's face. He's just exasperated. Yeah, so I'm 50-50 on the scene. There are some parts of the scene that works, and there are some parts that don't overall. But definitely heavy on the melodrama this scene overall, including the talk with Iris and in the talk with Joe, where Barry gives the description of who it was, being Clyde Martin.
Mm.
Uh, as a good thing in I like in the scene, I do like that exchange between Iris and Joe, which is that she's fine and complains that she wasn't allowed to be a police officer. We get a little bit of history, which is nice. That's useful in the scene as well to add context to fuel the fire, like it's a constant argument that they have. And that's it for me on that scene. Springs, you've been quiet. Do you have any comments you'd like to make or jump to a point of your own?
I have nothing else for this act to go to, other than just
Oh,
instances of Barry wearing more red.
All right, well,
I
Crimson, do you got any more to jump to?
I do. The poker face bit. Once I got a timeline that he was in a coma for 9 months, makes no sense to me now. Uh, why is that happening 9 months later? Oh, I looked at his Facebook and he likes the song, so I decided to play it for him 9 months later. And I don't know, it just doesn't really add up to me.
I'm gonna be honest. I think the dialogue is just there for us because I have a
Oh
feeling that
yeah,
Cisco would have. Obviously the dialogue is just there for us. I think Cisco would have played Barry's music for him more than that.
yeah, and we know it. At least with Poker Face, this is the first time that one's been played.
That's true.
And well, she also asked what he's doing, which kind of implies he hasn't been playing music in general. So
Yeah, it's
it
weird.
just it doesn't fit.
It doesn't. Knowing Cisco, who Cisco is as we go along in the show, yeah, it doesn't fit. Um,
Uh, do I have anything else? I'm running dry as well.
yeah, let's see. I think I got. Mm, I'm looking down my notes. I actually think I like the investigation stuff where Joe and Eddie kind of working in the police station about collecting witnesses and going through cell phones and stuff like that. Uh, it was just the it's very simple, but a lot of shows screw it up. I actually quite like their police work.
But the
It's
security
very
cameras were on the fritz while
they all
there's
have
cell
cell phones.
phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a modern like that would have been a 80's point is kind of a I view that as kind of a poking fun at like older cop shows where they don't look at security cameras and stuff like that, or they can't find them on security camera footage.
Hmm.
But this is the show's more modern. Everyone's got cell phones, so they can kind of play a little bit on that. It's very minor, but I do like their interactions as they're working the case together.
Yeah, I got those vibes as well. Uh, this is more for the show in general. His broken arm heals in 3 hours. Are they consistent with his regen abilities?
Yes, he regens quickly.
Don't recall.
Um, I don't know if they're consistent with degree of injury. Um, but usually like broken like if major bones are broken, it takes hours to heal. Cuts and stuff heal like within less than that time, pretty much. So they have a general scale of everything. You can make an argument about little nitpicks on their inconsistency with it throughout the show, but they do at least maintain the general outlook on his regen abilities.
All right. I think that is it on my notes.
All right then, gentlemen. We shall move into Act Three. From how theoretical are you, or I wasn't the only one affected, was I, to the very end. We'll start with you, Springs, if you got one.
Let's see here. Ooh, Barry's flashback. Cops aren't stopping a child from walking into an active crime scene.
Correct.
Yep,
No
that
arguments
bothered me
here.
too. Especially with his dad yelling at him not to go inside. I think any police officer would have tried to stop him.
Yeah.
Let
Uh,
alone touch. the body.
Yeah, let
And
alone
Joe
It
not
Joe,
was
who's
it was
in the
just
acknowledging it
room.
at that point.
Yeah, Joe's in the room.
yeah, not good. The cops in the
No,
show suck so far.
but are they as
But
bad as the cops in
but
Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
there are cops.
Yeah,
uh,
what's worse, having no cops or bad cops?
Bad cops. For me anyway.
I agree. I think bad
It
cops are
actually
kind
shows
of
a
worse. Yeah.
presence.
It would have to be.
I'm contextual.
Uh,
Everything,
yeah, I was gonna
everything,
say. I'm
everything
taking
that.
back what I said. It
Yeah,
has to be
I
case by
can't pick.
case.
I mean, it
Yeah,
can't. If a situation's like, where are the police? And they go, what are you talking about? This is in this city, there is no police, or there's no need. Crime rate's so low. It's like if it's a line like that for no need to be shown, then yeah, fine.
yeah.
That
Anyway,
that's contextualized.
yeah, I'm case by case, unfortunately, on this one. So, as much as I enjoyed making the joke, uh, yeah. So, I'll jump to right at the beginning of the sect, which is Barry storming into Star Labs, realizing he wasn't the only person affected by the particle accelerator. We get a nice bit of techno babble from Dr. Wells. Um, I suppose I like Dr. Wells's rant at Barry, even though obviously we have it more contextualized as him kind of being villainous. It's still framed as going after all the vaccines or genetic therapies and all the future potential medical,
All the
uh,
positives that
all
are
the
within
positives that you can.
Barry that
Yeah,
he wouldn't be able to do by playing hero.
yeah. I actually quite like the framework. It does paint him as a kind of a colder scientist, and it obviously because he's obviously more willing to play the long game. Funny, ha ha ha. Of uh, like he's the small hero work stuff would be is smaller compared to things like that, which is nice. I appreciate the scientific rant based rant, even if it's cold.
Yeah, that was decent.
Um, yeah. So Crimson, you wanna run away with a point?
I can make a point. This one being the suit. I appreciated that they gave an explanation to why there is a suit in the first place on the limited time this pilot takes place.
Mhm.
The explanation that it's a pretty much super firefighter suit to better the image of the company is fine, works out for me. The part that didn't was he's like it's fire retardant um,
And
and
abrasive resistant.
abrasive resistant. That's what it was. I'm like, okay, sure, fine, makes sense. And then he's like, the aerodynamic design helps. The what? The aerodynamic design? This is a firefighter suit. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah,
They,
that
Yeah, you
was.
want
they
all
dropped
that
it.
fire smoke in your skin.
They dropped the ball.
I know they did such a great job, and then at the end they did drop the ball. It was good dialogue, and then it became mid dialogue.
Cisco is not Lucius
Aerodynamic design.
Fox, so
Yeah.
doesn't line up.
Yeah, because they were connecting the dots between what would be realistic for a futuristic firefighter outfit, and then they just threw in something that they knew would need to be answered for it to be worked with super speed without it
Which it,
connecting to being a firefighter outfit.
I don't think they needed to add that in. The most you could say is that it's smaller and more agile fitting than a firefighter suit. Obviously, I think the aerodynamicism of it's kind of implied. It didn't need to be said.
Yeah, the fact that it's stated makes it worse.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, Springs, you got another point?
I like the real teamwork tracking to find Martin. Have everyone given like a pitch and point in to work like um what was it? It was Caitlin giving something, Cisco giving something, and Barry giving something, and like it all led to tracking him down.
Yeah, it shows the dynamism of the team.
Yeah, and I like that as a start of not like tripping over one another, not the whole like, oh, let's all do it at the same exact time and all tripping over and yelling at each other. And it's like, no, team, let's work together. It was actually like felt fluid and worked well, which helps kind of going like forward with the show. Um, I'm presuming how they work together.
Yeah. Um, it's strange
Could use
because
the word
I
presume.
yeah. It's because the Arrow show works so well, and mind you, the Arrow show takes like 12 episodes, 9 episodes. It takes 9 episodes before our team is properly together. Um, they wanted to replicate that in the Flash in the first episode, because it works. The formula worked so well in Arrow that they kind of wanted to make it work for the Flash as well, and they do a decent job of it in such a short time. Um, but for me, I guess comparing it to Arrow, it would have been nicer to see them come together over a longer period of time. But with what we have, it works. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they commented on it actually later when because Barry is friends with Felicity from the Arrow show. They comment on it later. Is like, the Arrow team came together over the course of months, whereas the Flash team was kind of thrown together overnight, as she puts it. And that's when Barry starts going out with the team to try and actually be friends with them and spend time with each other, kind of strengthen their bond as a team, which is nice. I appreciate that. That's future stuff though. But kind of related to your point, Springs. They show the diamonism very well between the teammates. Even Dr. Wells gets his moments in there.
Yeah.
I will go to the crossover bit where he goes to Starling City to get advice. Um, it's this is a meta sense for me, and I appreciate the crossover stuff here because it's where this is kind of where all in the Arrow show, pretty much all we see in the Arrow side of the things is Barry calls Oliver, "Hey, can we talk?" And then that's pretty much all we get in the what's it called? That's pretty much all we get in the Arrow show. For here, we actually get the whole conversation, and we get at least the narration up until this point kind of contextualizes him catching Oliver up on his story, which is cool. I like that. Um, on the what I like in the sense of why this works really well as a crossover, in Oliver's journey, he's slowly starting to realize his own influence over people, on like the influence he's having both on his city and like the people around him, on trying to get them to do better and be better. Which is why it lends to Oliver being more certain about Barry than everyone else that Barry has talked to. Um, and it helps with his previous episode with Barry that obviously is not part of the show, that he gets to see all the good that Barry tries to do. Um, so very, very good character work, at least continuity wise from a crossover perspective, at least what they do with Oliver in this episode. And I think it's contextualized for Barry to do this as well, because Oliver would be the only person he knows who isn't actively trying to be a superhero or actively being a quote unquote vigilante. So it makes sense that Oliver would be the person he goes to kind of confide in with a lot of this. So I appreciate a lot of what this scene accomplishes in a short amount of time. It gets a little cheesy by the end, but even despite that, I think it kind of earns its cheese a little bit. So
Cool. Cool.
yeah, uh,
Springs, you wanted to touch on this
yeah,
crossover bit
Springs.
I
earlier.
do. Is
Yeah,
this
Springs.
the
Did you
time
have?
to talk about it?
Yeah, since we're
Okay.
here.
You said to save it for the end. Um,
Yeah, well, I said save it for the end, meaning the last act. Go ahead.
okay. What season of Arrow is this?
This is season 3.
Okay. Um. Hmm.
If it helps you
I
contextualize the timeline, the Barry episode is halfway through season 2, and he gets hit with lightning at the end of that episode, so we can presume he was in a coma for the rest of that season
for
of
the
Arrow.
9 month, but that's on the
Yeah,
Arrow show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not the biggest fan of these two. Not how do I? It's difficult of not knowing. Well, no, they know each other. I'm not the biggest fan of the introduction of these two in this episode. That
I agree
Barry
with you.
having powers that we see makes him friends with an already hero in another city of no prior backstory or anything that we know of in the Flash when they could have reused backstory of like him running to Starling City or seeing the sign since they're using flashbacks with his mom to go to the Arrow show of what's already been made, which I guess is a budget saver of a connection there. The line that was brought up at Harrison Wells that you brought up, writer, which shows his connection to Starling City and giving like a reason now to go there, that's fine. That lines up. But for me, I wish there was a more cemented friendship or something shown of Barry being friends with Oliver. It's
That
like
part is what I agree with.
it's
Yeah.
like watching a Hawkman show pilot, and at a part he goes and talks to Batman.
yeah, I agree. Like I said, my love for this scene is purely born out of the fact that I've seen both the
Yeah,
Arrow show's version of this scene and the build up of how they got to know each other in that episode because they do leave and they do part as friends in that episode. But within the context of the Flash, I agree. I would have liked to see him, even if it's just like text messages to Felicity or Oliver, just keeping them up to date. He's like, "Hey, I'm out of coma." That would be fine.
yeah.
Because we are told later on Felicity did visit Barry in a coma, so the Arrow team has crossed over already because Felicity is the closest person to Barry
But it's a
from
name
the Arrow
given,
team.
just Felicity.
Um,
Uh, this pilot heavily requires you to know stuff about
Knows
Arrow,
oh
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
think is a problem I have with it. They
yeah,
don't treat it as its own identity.
yeah. I agree. You're not gonna find me pushbacking on that. All
No,
my praise for the scene comes from the context of having seen all of that. I agree. In isolation, there's a lot of issues with
which
because
funny enough reminded me of something that we've done before in season 13 recap, the bracket banter.
all right,
How we're still at a stalemate of Splice versus Last Jedi, and which one's worse. And Last Jedi, I can see stands out far worse with all the previous knowledge of Star Wars up to that point versus standalone on its own.
yeah. Well, I mean, the reason we had that whole debacle is because we didn't distinguish of whether it was supposed to be on its own or within the context of the universe. Whereas with here, we've been trying to do, I guess, pilots without the context of whether you've seen the rest of the show or not. We're doing them in
Yeah,
isolation. Um, yeah, I can agree. There's definitely a parallel there, I suppose, with how we're arguing and talking about it.
I guess for clarification for those audience who are questioning about it, like for me, I'm going with like the standalone of the pilot episode and not knowledge
Yeah,
of like how much I've seen of Arrow and even going off of the Arrow pilot connected here because of his presence. Just so
yeah. To clarify, that will not be factoring into my objective. I just want to talk about why I like it subjectively. Because overall, objectively, it does good job for the universe, but as a show as a whole. But in isolation to the pilot, it's very unsupported. Because at this point, if this is your introduction to the CW superhero universe, he's just there. You're wondering who the fuck is Arrow? Well, why is he here? Why is Barry going to him to talk about all this?
Yeah,
it would be if like
Um,
not Civil War is a good example, but like Homecoming, Spider-Man's origin, like we're seeing this again, and he's doing all these things, and then he just walks into Stark Industries and talks to Tony like they're friends.
yeah, without the introduction
Yeah,
of
it's
their
like you
without their
don't
introduction to the
know
Civil War,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. Like, it's to kind of phrase what you said in a different way. It's like Tony and Parker are best friends without ever having met in Civil War. They're just suddenly there together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's I'm going. I mean, there's got to be people out there who are like, "Oh, Spider-Man, I'll go see Homecoming. I like Spider-Man," but never saw Civil War because they not a fan of Captain America, so they don't know that whole scene of Tony meeting Spider-Man and joining up.
Yep, it's true. People watch stuff out of context all the time, especially with the MCU because of how grand it
Yeah.
is.
So this episode of Flash feels somewhat like that to me. Like there is previous stuff already made out there in this Arrowverse, but if you're just watching Flash because you like Flash, it's kind of stands out.
Yeah. The only thing that a Flash fan would have going into this is knowing that Green Arrow and Flash are supposed to be friends.
True, but being
It,
for two
yeah.
Justice League members in a pilot of an episode seems pretty fast moving. No pun intended.
Well, I'm not too worried about it. It's just how they integrate it. They just plop them in without any build up for them. Because even the name dropping the city, someone who is just seeing this show won't have any connection to that at all. Won't mean
Yeah, they'll
anything.
just see Starling City and go, "Where the fuck is this on the
Yeah.
map?"
It has nothing to do with anything.
Well, where's Flash? Is it
So
Central? Is he in Central City?
Central City.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's in Keystone? There's so many cities. There's Keystone, Bloodhaven, Gotham,
Uh,
Metropolis.
Keystone came over from is where Eddie Thawne came over from, at least from this episode. I think in universe, I think that's where White Canary now hangs out. Is in Keystone,
White Canary?
maybe. Yeah, it's a character unique to the CW shows.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, I know Black Canary.
I know you know Black Canary. I just
Okay.
uh,
uh, yeah, White Canary. I think she's played by someone I think is good. I need to actually double check that. So,
yeah. Don't die on the hill, Crimson. You have no idea what you're talking about if you don't remember.
well, I remember
uh,
looking her up before, and I know she's in
yeah.
this universe. Let's see.
Wait, is I could be getting this wrong. Where are the Teen Titans located, Springs? They're not in Keystone, right?
No, 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 no. They're well, there's East Coast Titans and West Coast Titans, and
Okay, right. All right, I forgot about that.
oh crap,
Not who I thought it was. I retract my statement.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I just know there's
Um,
two sides. The ones with like Cyborg, Robin, Raven, those are the West Coast
West Coast, and then we have East Coast. Yeah,
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 with Speedy and Bumblebee and then again, that's from my knowledge going off with the cartoon. Sorry, a little bit of comics
yeah.
on Teen Titans. The last thing I'll sum up of this interaction with Oliver is that Barry gets the Flash name from him. So it's like origin of his name in this version of the Flash is from Green Arrow.
Hmm. Uh, which works in universe. I don't know how everybody feels about that out of universe because I actually don't know how Flash gets his name in the comics.
It feels in this very I don't know if it's on no, but just like being Arrowverse, like it's tailored around Arrow since that's the start of it. It's like his usage is because of him that Flash got a name and is a hero kind of thing. So it's like without Arrow, there wouldn't be Flash. So it kind of feels somewhat in that vein. Like what
I
would they have
mean,
done?
that is definitely in the meta sense. If nobody liked Barry and uh, his introduction in Arrow, I don't think they would have done a Flash.
Yeah, but not just like audience like. I mean like the name given.
Yeah, it fits with how Oliver hears the story and like I guess observes Barry running away in a Flash. It works. It's a little on the nose, and that's where I said it. This is where that's the quote unquote cheesy part I was referring to. I think it earns its cheese a little bit within the context of the universe. In isolation, it's definitely on the nose.
Yeah, I'm kind of a Sprinks on that one. It's just
It's like watching the
I don't
first
think
Iron
it's
Man movie
terrible,
and
but it's
Nick
weird.
Fury at the end calls him Iron Man.
Well, that was. Oh, you're using an example.
I'm using an example. or something like that. Someone else
Okay.
giving the name to someone.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not angry about it. It just happens. Kind of. For in isolation for the show. I'm probably more middle of the road on it. Because heroes can get their names from other people all the time. Uh,
I'm sorry if I pissed off anyone with that my example I just made. I mean, I can see how both are very
It's
vast
a
different,
decent
but
example.
did you say Nick Fury?
yeah,
Yeah,
if
at the
like at
end when
the end of Iron
we're
Man,
forming a team.
he's like, "You in
Yeah,
that suit, you're some kind of like, what's it made out of?
Iron
Iron?
Man.
You like an Iron Man?"
Okay, that's that. That I was kind of confused an example because I barely remember that end credit scene. I'm like, I couldn't tell if you were making an example up or if you were
Yeah, it was an
When he was
example I'm
recruiting
giving.
him.
creating a different
He
language.
goes, "I'm
Yeah.
making
So
a team
if
Iron
we,
Man. It's actually made out of polyenameral metallic. Iron Man sounds better."
yeah, so fair enough. Nick Fury wouldn't be that quippy, but I agree. Like so, in your example, you removed the I am Iron Man part.
Yeah, because that's
Okay,
how
all
he got
right. Now
his
your
name
example.
in that is he chose
All
it.
right,
I'm saying for
all right.
Flash, he didn't choose his name. I mean, yes, he decided what to go with, but it wasn't like a self-made Barry idea. It was taken from
Yeah.
Oliver.
Okay, I see. Um, yeah. Now I understand your full example. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I could see that. It works. Okay, it's just not great though. Because I'm pretty middle on it on this cheese.
It works in isolation of the show, but it's definitely something they could have made better by not doing it
Yeah, it works in
and
isolation
doing
of the
something
show.
else.
It works a little bit better within the context of everything else in the universe, but not much. So it's only middling to good for me at best.
Middling, I like that. It's middling.
Yeah, yeah. That is a word that I have stole from The Witcher. So I just want to give credit to
Oh,
Andrzej Sapkowski.
whoop-de-doo! Big surprise. There's a line later when Barry's trying to reverse the tornado and his suit's holding up that Cisco says, but Caitlin says that Barry isn't. Is that means Barry's vitals are going bad? Because it doesn't look like
Well,
he's just going faster.
That's just dialogue to raise the
that
tension.
was drama.
Presumably,
Yeah,
yes.
because
Presumably, yes.
no, they can't. There can't be proof of his body reacting differently because I imagine he goes faster than 700 in the show,
I mean, if the
and
suit,
they would have to acknowledge that every single time he goes faster than that.
yeah, the
And
suit has the
Okay.
vitals, and it's like, oh, the suit's doing great if it can track the vitals of Barry that Cisco said earlier that it does. So what if
I mean,
Barry is doing bad? Is his heart rate
Barry's
going faster than normal to not be picked up?
Barry's body cannot be reacting to this speed because I know it gets topped a lot.
Yeah. So funny enough. I'll make that. I'll save that point for the end. But the best fit interpretation you can make of it is that Caitlyn is just used to normal human vitals, not Barry Allen vitals.
But they've been running tests.
We've seen them run one test. So as we go through the show, they actually do some more like vitals specific tests. Like they actually put him on a treadmill. They have a bunch of heart monitors and stuff on him. Um, so they it gets more normalized, quote unquote. So again, my best faith interpretation of the scene is that Caitlin Snow is just using normal human vitals. But I'm in agreement with you, Crimson. It's a little weird because yeah, the speed gets topped.
It would make most sense if the baseline of human on average, and then Barry's baseline of where his resting heart rate and everything is currently, and his healing factor and everything, just amplified the difference between standard average human to Barry currently. So what would Barry's top be if like a Flash equivalent of him currently would be at? I feel like if it got
See,
past that, that
well,
would be a
they
concern.
they don't know that though. It's like it's too early in the
Mm,
Flash career for them to be aware of Barry's limits.
Well, yes, I'm just saying
they do know he's
amplifying it.
abnormal though,
They do know he's
because
abnormal.
his heartbeat was faster than the machine could read.
Which is why they thought
Uh,
Yeah,
he kept flatlining.
yeah,
yeah,
I agree with that.
so knowing that he has anomalies with his organs, we don't know what readings were off other than something was off. Uh, but it would be quite simple to assume it's normal based off of what they do know of him.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have my best faith interpretation is that I don't know if I have more to defend it with, and I don't think I would, because it's very
Yeah.
much there. The purpose of the line is to raise the tension.
It's the how did you not die from lightning? That's the same thing. It's
Yeah,
heightening the scene.
yeah. I would say this one has more of a defense, but it's not much because as you've pointed out, Springs, they have run a single test, and there is, and he's been in a coma with them for 9 months. They would have something on
Yeah.
him.
Oh yeah.
They would have a baseline at least while he's in a coma of what he's like.
Also, something with that when he wakes up and Caitlin says, "Pee in my cup." For 9 months in a coma, he didn't urinate.
Yeah, that
Good
bothered me
point.
too. Yeah, I was like, I was like, you don't have urine samples by now? That's weird.
That one got by me. Good one, Sprinks. Missed that one.
Yeah. Just wait until we dive into his what his eating habits are going to have to be in the next episode.
Well, if we continue, yeah,
Metabolic rate through the
If we
roof.
metabolically through the roof. Um, we get this banger line from Joe in this act. Why in the hell would God need to rob banks?
yeah. If Martin says, "Do you think guns can stop God?"
Turned a villain into a supervillain with that line.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, definitely cheesy.
Also, hey, I mean, Joe, come on, he had to take a course in conflict resolution, being a higher up at a police station. Come on,
This is before 2020.
conflict resolution is pretty standard practice with within a police department.
Um,
Certainly within 2014 or 15, which was the timeline you provided.
yeah, I'm cracking. It's more of a cracking joke now. I'm thinking on it. You're probably right. I think a lot of conflict resolution would have started after the 1990s LA riots, the Rodney King riots. That's where a lot of conflict resolution would have started coming into effect. Um, I don't know the degree at which it would have bled into the police forces around the mythical DC US, but that's about when it would have started.
Well, Joe, just not the best cop, at least in this pilot.
maybe he'll
I did,
get
I
No,
did
better.
like the cell phone bit, but
he's a great
uh,
character. I don't know if he improves as a cop though.
ooh, Joe, time to go back to training. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Now, to me,
Way to go, Joe. Influencing Martin to think bigger.
in this episode, there have been questionable special effects that we've talked about. For me,
Uh-huh.
I think the worst looking one is Martin inside the tornado as it's panning
Looking
upward,
up.
making him
Yeah, it's time
project
to
like he's
think
getting
big.
bigger. It's like a projection thing, or something of like artificially
It,
makes him look getting bigger while the camera's panning away to make his physical form smaller.
something I think they did was they had a stationary camera on him of him looking up, but that didn't match the digital camera they were doing for the tornado pan they wanted. So they had to digitally stretch his face to make it look like the proper angle they were going with while shrinking him to match the
Oh,
It
distance.
looked
I can sort of see that.
really, really bad.
Yeah, so the camera work plus the digital landscape they were creating didn't mesh, and they had to try to fix it in post. That's what I think happened.
That
Yeah, I think
could be
that makes
exactly it.
sense. That makes sense to me as something that it was a mistake they'd make. There's a lot of filming TV shows is a whole different beast than filming movies. It's very, very tight schedule stuff. So
I mean, hey, I give
when
him
that
the
mistake was
kudos.
made,
Kudos on
yeah,
Barry entering the car with the quick cuts to like kind of cover that up. That's fine. This was not covered up.
no, they didn't
I
cover
mean,
this up.
if the problem's based off what I think it is on what I said, they tried
No,
to
yeah,
fix
they
it,
definitely tried.
but it
It's
is
still a bad
still
effect.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
respect to the attempt, I guess, at fixing an
I'm like,
error.
if he started flying upwards to keep his face, and then he's like floating in the middle of a tornado, I think that would have helped. But they kept him on the ground.
Well, the problem with the flying thing is then they'd have to make a CG character, which would require a lot of rigging
Money.
and that a
If
lot of money with
they could do
that.
that or green screen the environment around him.
And that could get cheesy looking, but you're right, that is an option as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say for the different, definitely. I know Crimson goes into budget things, but the tornado in the Fantastic Four movie around Doctor Doom looked phenomenally better of
Yeah, but
like a
that's a
power
movie
set.
budget.
Yeah.
well, that's actually you're talking about specifically this shot of the tornado or the tornado in general?
Uh, well, the other one's not really a tornado, so I'll go with the interior shot.
Okay, because I had two notes on here regarding the visual effects in a positive manner, and it was the tornado, uh, the exterior shots of the tornado, specifically the one of it bursting through the barn. I think that looked really, really good, especially for a TV show budget, a CW one at that. I thought
Yeah,
that looked really
I'm in
good,
agreement with that. That one actually looked pretty decent.
and the intro city they did of Barry running through the city. There was some wonky parts in it, but that was all a digital landscape, and I think that the city itself looked pretty solid. How the cars interacted to him running didn't look great, but the actual visual fidelity looked good.
That reminded me of something. In the beginning, when we see him going through the streets, doesn't he comment, "Yep, that's me," or "There I am"? Like
Something
blink
along
and you
those
miss it.
lines.
Who's he talking to?
Fourth wall?
Oh, it's a fourth
Um,
No.
wall. Ooh,
oh, yeah, he talks to the audience directly. I suppose at the end of the episode. Um, the contextualization for that is him telling a story to Oliver.
No, he's addressing the visual aid though, which would be for the audience.
Yeah, he's
He,
addressing the
he wouldn't
visual
be
aid.
telling Oliver, "There I am," in a
Well,
in a
he
flashback.
unless
could.
he's recording
He
himself.
no no not unless he's recording. He could just be doing it live in front of Oliver.
But
I
how would
consider
he
well at least
project his
I've listened
voice
to
to Oliver while running around the city saying, "There I am"?
no he wouldn't say that it wouldn't work like that. He would be on the rooftop doing like demonstrations. He wouldn't have to go that far to do it. It's very
This is a
weird.
lot of stretching.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, he's in reality, Springs, he's talking directly with the audience. It's the only episode where he does do that,
gotcha. I mean, just the
but he
whole
does it more
"I'm
than
Barry
once.
Allen
So
and I'm the fastest man alive." Like to
yeah,
me, it's just a
it's
one-time use. I know he does it a lot. Like it's like the introduction thing. I think it's just a reuse.
no, he actually doesn't. The funny thing
Oh,
is, he actually only does it for the second episode. He does the whole intro thing, and then he's like, "But you know all that already, so we're just gonna dive right in." The reason that they don't do that is to actually distinguish it from Arrow, is because Arrow always opens up with, "My name is Oliver Queen." That there's a reason that they decided not to commit to doing the opening narration for every episode in the Flash.
that's good. But okay, still, he's talking to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking to us.
Ooh, ooh, I'm not sure how I like that.
Yeah, but he doesn't do. But he does it more than once though.
I know,
So
but it cement it it creates that he has fourth wall ability.
I mean, and the role of a narration role, but not within the show. He's not directly talking as a character to us, just through narration.
narration can speak directly to an audience without necessarily having to break the fourth wall, or like make the character break the fourth wall. I should clarify. Sorry.
Yes, but it's a very tricky tightrope to walk on.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like Matilda, right? Because they used DeVito to voice the narrator too. You kind of have to infer it's the dad because they use the same guy. Uh, would you say
That
the dad as a fourth wall break?
well,
No, I wouldn't.
no, because to me those are two different characters. They're played by the
There's no
same
reason to
person.
assume that.
It's just the way
It,
Matilda's
it's not
treated
like
by the
series on.
narrator.
Sorry,
It was just how the
it's not like
narrator
series
treats
of
her.
you
Okay,
first.
You
Sprinks, you're
said
gonna go first.
sorry. You
You
said
first.
sorry, so I paused and went.
Yeah.
Sprinks, go first.
How the narrator refers to Matilda is far more sweeter and neutral than how the father of Danny DeVito treats her in the film. So I saw it as two different, even though they're played by the same character, the narrator and the father.
Crimson.
Which is fair, but who's to say that's not him reflecting later in life on how he mistreated Matilda and was just thinking about events.
That is
You
also fair, but we're not
know?
covering Matilda.
No,
Yeah,
and
Yeah, but it's
it's not like
example related though.
yeah,
not like series of unfortunate events where Lemony Snicket says he's the narrator, giving the
that's
narrator
that's
itself a character
that's a mess of
of its
something.
own.
That whole thing is something. The typewriter in the clock tower thing. That yeah,
Yes, giving the narrator a character in that's defined
of the
as the
writer,
narrator.
of the world maker, of the yeah.
Yes.
Well, Barry ran so fast it blew the mask off his head.
I forgot. I skipped over a dumb thing that happened in Act Two. Um, Barry runs into a car, and the car alarm does not go off.
Oh, the cop. Yeah, it just shatters the black glass.
Yeah,
There's also
no
no
car
dent
alarm
in the
went off,
car.
and I think he sets car alarm off earlier in the episode just by
I think
running
so.
past them.
Also, the back of a police station, right? There's probably a security camera.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, he's not really good at hiding his identity in this episode.
No, no, he's
I
not.
don't think it's on his mind to hide who he is.
Not yet.
Because
Not until
otherwise,
Oliver does the whole "take your own advice, wear a mask." I don't
yeah.
think.
Because I'm like, the mask was blown off him, and he knew it when looking at uh, Clyde, who gets shot by Joe, and Joe starts running up, and he doesn't put his mask on. He doesn't try to cover up
No,
Yeah,
not
or
for
just
Joe,
run away.
anyways.
It's like,
yeah. I don't know if he would have tried to hide it from Joe. I think his original plan was to show Joe and Iris his family, and then Joe asks him not to show Iris. So I'm fine with him not rushing to put it back on because it's family that's coming to him.
yes. It also helps for me, at least, with a trope I don't really like of the whole like I've been this character the whole time, and it's like you look at all you've done, and why didn't you tell me? And all the it's like just Joey knowing off the bat. We don't have to get the I was the Flash all the time. It's like, well, you
They're doing
caused
that with
this, and blah. Blah.
Iris.
Yeah,
It's a good subversion. You still get that melodrama because Iris doesn't know, but at least Joe knows, so it's not hidden from everybody. You know?
yes. And then Joe can give like Iris conversation about how he like why he knows and the safety of it and everything. So
Yeah. Which is actually one of the stronger conversations in the show. When because spoilers, Iris does eventually figure it out.
yeah,
Who would never have
something
guessed?
I think is good in this show, which I was thinking about it, I think is stronger than Ezra Miller's Flash, is Barry's connection to his dad.
Oh, there is one.
It holds emotional weight.
Oh, there is one.
There
Yeah,
is one.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't think either one of you two have seen the Flash movie, have you?
I've seen the Flash, and his dad also makes an appearance in Justice League.
Okay, and Crimson?
I have not.
Okay. The Flash movie focuses a lot more on his mom.
Yeah, which is fine for what that movie's going for.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that
The
way.
emotional weight's more on the mom than the dad.
Yeah, the dad's weight is this is a job from Justice League.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a lot more emotional weight between this Barry and his dad. And I'm gonna be honest, Grant Gustin is just a better person. So
A lot of people say Grant Gustin is the Flash,
yeah,
which I'm not
Um,
arguing against.
yeah.
I prefer
I
Grant Gustin over Ezra Miller and Flash.
yeah. For starters,
most
he
people, I
has
think, agree with that.
yeah, for starters, he actually has like the right lighting, the right lightning.
And he doesn't. Oh God, I'm sorry. The way he runs, The comparison in running
The
is
extended,
the arms and the
gangly look.
legs. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Ugh, it was a choice that Zack Snyder decided to go with that.
It's like throwing like knives from your pocket. Like that movement is
Oh
how you
yeah.
run. Like throwing knives.
Yeah, it's very weird. Um, but yeah, no, uh, I quite like Grant Gustin as Flash as the character. I never, while I might have soured over the shows overall, I never at any point thought I didn't like Grant Gustin in the role. Um,
Writer. You were
yes,
talking about a little while ago how you liked the Joe talk at the end of this.
did
Was
I?
that the entire? Yeah. Did
Uh,
Like
Did you
by the
like
cop
all of the
car.
talk?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't like all the talk. I was that was more talking about the earlier one with
Well,
him lashing out
no.
at Barry.
You talked at it slightly when referring to him knowing about the identity of the Flash. You talked about how you liked a little bit about it. Uh,
I do like some of it. Yeah, I like let's see. Specifically, it's gonna be what I have to fucking draw on now.
so I don't think it's good. The way he 180s with every bullet point he made
Hold
arguing
on, hold
earlier.
on. I'm pretty sure I said the exact same thing. I'm just trying to find it. Okay. If you put in my notes exactly is pretty much I can buy him being turned a little bit because he saw Barry do something impossible. However, 15 years of Barry doing investigations of like into quote unquote impossible mysteries and he just flips on a dime this instantly. Yeah, no. Yeah, I said the same thing you did. 180 flip is too much. I like um the start of it, like the shock of I like the fact that the actor is playing Joe in shock, if that makes sense. I did not like the 180 flip. I like him asking Iris to keep out of it. That's in character. Um, so I like a lot of the things around the 180 flip, not the 180 flip itself. I disliked it.
Yeah,
I with how Joe is supposed to be built up, there would be a element of skepticism is still there. So him buying Barry can do something like this is fine, but immediately jumping to your father was innocent is a little too much.
that was the part I was kind of feeling. Your dad's innocent. I'm like, what? Huh? Huh? What?
Yeah, that
You
is the
just
part.
berated him about how his dad killed his parents and he needs to or his wife and needs to get over it. Yeah,
Yeah,
But seeing is believing, and now he's seen stuff.
yeah.
but
Like I said,
nothing related to the murder.
I don't mind him coming to the impossible stuff, but I do mind the 180 flip on the father stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
my
it would
biggest problem is the father thing.
I agree. My quick fix for this is him indulging Barry to describe what happened that night in detail. Like, the idea of like, okay, maybe he did see something, describe it to me again. Like I don't need the 180 flipped of just, oh, your father's innocent. I don't buy that. Him being a detective and then asking more questions about it, I think would lend more to be Joe's character. Joe's character. That would have
It
been
would
my
be
quick
better.
fix for the scene.
It would certainly be better.
Sprinks, do you have any points?
Um, so there's this SpongeBob episode, and I should have looked up the name of it, where Sandy gets into like a bet with SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs that because she needs to breathe air, needs air down underwater, that they should try being topside. And for some reason, when Harrison Wells stands up in the wheelchair, my brain went, I don't need this wheelchair, and I don't need these glasses neither. Which is exactly what Sandy did.
Yeah, I know the episode you're referencing. It's a pretty darn good episode.
Funny
The funny
enough, and
parallel.
unsurprising to anybody who knows me, I do not. I was
Yeah,
not allowed
yeah.
to watch SpongeBob growing up.
So sad.
Yeah, and now that I'm an adult, the only care that I have for it is just to understand memes.
First 3 seasons, little bit of season 4, and the first movie. That's where I still hold. That's all you need.
Golden Age, right
Golden
there.
Age, right there.
All right.
Mhm.
I like Harrison Wells' pep talk. Um, it's a little over the top, obviously. Uh, what I do
It's
like
with
is
the
the
last
sound.
talk they had.
Yeah, I do like the sound that cuts out. So it's just the music and Wells's voice kind of echoing through Barry. And for the rest of the show, this is the second use of "Run, Barry, Run," because that is going to come up in the show a lot. It's a motif. First one is by
Yeah.
his father telling Barry to run away from his mom being attacked by two lightning things. The second instance is here is from Dr. Wells, who, you know, would I don't
Knows
know if he
some
would
things.
knows some things, but he it adds to the because it's a theme and a lot of his mentors will tell him going forward.
Run towards your dreams.
Run, Barry, run. And then it's flipped on its head in other episodes too when Barry goes into the Speed Force.
Fight or
But that's
flight.
for another.
Well, you always got an answer.
That's true. Um,
But hey, that newspaper.
Yeah.
yeah. Man, what a newspaper it was.
See, time of this recording, that date hasn't happened yet. By the time this
Yeah.
episode is out and people are listening to it currently, it's past.
Yeah. To give everybody kind of a funny timeline, we're recording it literally a week before the date on that newspaper.
Yes.
Missed it
It's
by
pretty,
that
Will
much.
something
we missed it
happen
by that
next
much.
week? Could be. Will we have
Yeah,
something to discuss in the recap? Absolutely.
yeah. We'll bring it up that the Scarlet Speedster has disappeared. Probably, if the timeline is correct.
You know how funny it would be if Flash was just taken out of streaming services? Like just poof, disappeared.
Well, they're going to say if the actor just disappeared.
Grant Gustin, well, he could do a big practical joke.
That would be funny if that was their quote unquote it's their April Fool's joke. All the Flash stuff just disappears for a day.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, man. That would be.
Yeah.
So this ending bit, a similar issue that I had with the Reverse Flash reveal in his flashback, but this one's a bit better to me purely for the fact that it's a pilot hook. It's supposed to draw you in. I see more of a purpose behind it than the other problem I had, or not problem I had, the other thing I didn't like. Uh, so it, it's annoying to me that they reveal the big bad at the end of the pilot here, the twist villain in air quotes. Uh,
You
but
never saw him coming, right, Crimson?
no, never. What a twist! And but this one's a bit more justified to me because it is supposed to be the hook of the show. Throwing it out there.
Yeah. My notes for this are funny, so I'm gonna read it out exactly. Uh, Wells checks into his secret room and just stands up like a Chad. He's a liar and has a newspaper to the future. That's pretty much what my notes say.
And
I
apparently
put he's a liar in all caps.
he has braille
Lie.
all over his walls.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a visual aesthetic for sure. What's the symbolism?
It's from the 25th century. I don't know. I will
That's
say
not very symbolic of
the
you.
the effects on the door, like that door look, that was cool.
Yeah, it looked really cool. That is it for my notes, gentlemen. What are you all looking at?
Couldn't the dots on the walls represent like eyes and like everyone? To him, it feels like everyone's watching him or something. I don't know.
Don't take the bait, Springs.
What? What bait? It's clear symbology.
Could be. Could be.
Clear.
Maybe. I feel like more of the show might answer that question. Who knows?
The future rests on his shoulders, and those are all the people relying on him.
The memories of everyone, of all the eyes
I
looking
really
at him.
like your take there. Possibly.
Fate.
So,
Yes, I have one more.
all
The
right.
newspaper at the bottom says Wayne Tech and Queen Inc. merger complete, which means
Yeah.
Wayne Industries exists.
Well, yeah, we got
Yeah,
Batwoman.
yeah, that happened. I
Bruce
was
Wayne
very happy we
somewhere.
got.
Or
Yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
Thomas Wayne because Flash. And Thomas Wayne, I think, has a premise in the Flashpoint paradox.
You think
Yes,
or
he
no?
Yeah,
does.
I know. I know he
He
does.
knows.
Because
We
I
know.
know.
But in the show, don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I'm familiar with
it's
the
a little.
Flashpoint paradox movie. Great
Yeah, it's a little note that I like for this universe because it would make sense in one universe where Queen Inc. and Wayne Industries would merger because Batman and Green Arrow are like thick as thieves.
movie. Brought it up in Green Arrow when we covered it that Green Arrow was made to make a lighter version of Batman because the comics were getting darker.
Yes. But like in most shared universes now, Batman and Green Arrow are thick as thieves. Uh, which I quite like because they're the two humans that stand with gods or whatever.
Yeah, Gods Among Us.
Yeah.
And
Injustice.
Crimson?
Any points, sir?
Yes. The tornado bit. Why did he have to run counterclockwise to dissuade
Unwind
the
it.
tornado instead of punching the guy in the face?
He couldn't enter the tornado.
He totally could.
Oh, you just reminded me of one of my world building issues. This is not in isolation to the episode, but I'll bring this up as an issue. Barry Allen clocked 750 miles per hour in this episode. He
He-
struggles to reach that in the future episodes. They kind of wind it back down a little bit.
Oh, very inconsistent with his powers.
um, with his speed stuff up until the halfway point of the season, yes.
I'd have a problem with that if we were covering later stuff. But
Yeah,
right now,
I'm
Yeah.
just
I'm
bringing.
okay.
There's no issue as of the isolation of this episode. So I'm just throwing it as a broader criticism out there of the show that I actually have.
And I guess the last thing I have is my thoughts on the dad. I really like the dad. I think my favorite part of the episode was the dad and Barry talk. It was good.
Yeah,
Not
they
enough to
have.
get an emotion out of me or anything. I don't think most people would, considering it's
Yeah,
just the pilot.
Yeah, I
But
didn't get
it was
teary
well
eyed, but
executed.
it had emotion to it.
Yeah,
yeah. There's
it,
actually a
I
relationship
bought
there.
it.
Now, that previously brings up a thing, writer, that Barry clocked 750 miles per hour going around the tornado. Is that what you
Mm.
said?
I think yes.
Would that mean
He
that
needed to beat 700.
Clyde's tornado was going just as fast in order to be countered?
Uh, no, Barry needs to go faster than it. So Clyde's tornado would have been going under that.
Okay.
They said he needed to reach 700 to beat the tornado.
That's just a bunch of tornado math. I don't know.
Okay.
Because they
It
said it
depends
was
on
a.
your category. It depends on your category of tornado.
Did they say it was
I
category 5?
It was becoming a category five.
Becoming.
It hadn't reached that point yet. I think category 5 tornadoes can go up to 800, 900. So as long as Barry beat him before he reached category 5, I can buy it. It was probably in the category 3, category 4 range when
Ah,
Barry
I
won.
see. It was a race.
Yeah. Funny enough, yeah.
That's all I got.
I don't think so. I think you have something else.
It is. I do.
You gave me visual aid for something on the YouTube and Rumble end.
Oh, you're right. Glad you pointed
Trying
that
to
out.
remind you of your points.
Yeah, that was in like Act 2 or something. uh, they were looking for Clyde's license plate after the robbery, and we get a shot of someone's cell phone, and you get to see the plate of the car, which is just this white square, absolutely no detail. And then we get a shot of a zoom and enhance, and it is a crisp, clear, identifiable plate. It might be one of the most absurd jumps of a zoom in enhance I've seen. It's quite quite staggering.
Are we talking Blade Runner levels of zoom and enhance, or
Crimson, I see
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. This is
it's
beyond Blade Runner.
insane. It's otherworldly.
This is more
I
advanced than
agree.
Blade Runner.
Um,
Yeah, I posted it
y-
for you right there. It's
yeah, I can see it. I agree. Yeah, that's exactly. Yep.
it's
Not gonna
so
have any.
bad.
You're not gonna have any pushback from me on that one.
I don't know how they let that happen.
Also, this laptop doesn't even have a browser source. It's just one file.
They have it hidden.
Oh,
They have it
I'm
hidden.
like, it's right in the middle of their
You're only seeing
screen.
half. You're only seeing half of the laptop screen. So
Only
Hmm?
half?
hold on. Oh, never mind.
I'm
That's
like,
just
there's
the way the
one thing in
Discord
the
cut it.
top right corner,
Sorry,
and
my bad. Discord just cut it. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. It's all hidden. It's also a company computer, so not much that would be on the back. Desktop.
Yeah.
I don't know. The art department didn't want to. The CGI effects team didn't want to
sure.
the effort in. Yeah.
I mean, you can hide your bottom bar on your computer. That is a setting. So I'm not. It
Well, yeah,
doesn't
he's
need
talking
a
about the stuff.
taskbar.
He's talking about the stuff that would be on the back.
It's a CCPD monitor computer in the station, and it only has one thing on it,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
even could
I'm saying.
be the thumb drive
I'm
connected
saying.
in.
It says
Yeah,
Q drive on it. So,
yeah, yeah. I'm saying that the what else you would be have on a computer could just be hidden in the taskbar because you can hide your taskbar at the bottom of your computer by
That's true.
settings. So I'm not too mad about that. But the license plate, I would agree on. And with that, Crimson, is that
yeah.
it?
Is there
All
anything else I
right.
forgot, Sprinks?
Not to my knowledge.
All right.
All right then. I guess with that, gentlemen, we shall go into ratings. Uh, Crimson, why don't you start us off?
All right. Sweet. So I did have to go back and check my arrow because I didn't want to trip over myself and have to fix something later.
The Aero
Because
Pilot,
I feel like it.
for that matter.
Yes, because that's what we covered. And I didn't want to trip over myself on it. And it worked out all right. My numbers matched, so that was nice. I'll start with my subjective. It wasn't the worst thing ever. It wasn't the best thing ever. And is it something I would pursue on my own? No. Um, I wouldn't be upset if I had to watch it though. So I'll give it a 6. It was fine. It was okay. It wasn't unbearable, even though Joe had some unbearable moments. Objectively, it's not fully plagued by the typical CW ness of being on CW. I think I said something similar to Arrow, where it didn't
You did.
feel wholeheartedly like a CW show. I guess it's just what they turn into going down the line. But overall, I think the CG looks good. The parts I complimented, there was the very glaring, terrible inner tornado part, which was pointed out. But overall, I think the effects look pretty solid for the time. The network in general looks good. The acting, I think, was all on point. If I was to point out the weakest actor, it would probably be Cisco. But even then, I still think he did an okay job. The plot was fine. I feel like the bad guy, Martin, was kind of sidelined, and this was mostly just a Barry centric thing, which is good for the pilot. You're building up a superhero. I'm fine with it. But a little bit more focus on the bad guy, I think, would have been nice. But objectively, yeah, it's fine what they have for that. The writing in terms of dialogue has some good parts, has some bad parts. The lightning bit I pointed out as being exaggerated wasn't great. The laptop interactions with everybody should have had a plot line based off of how bad it was, uh, or just
Oh,
removed
Iris's
in
theft of her
general.
back. Got it.
Yes, the laptop theft. That one was lacking lines where it should have had lines to excuse how bad it was. Uh, I think Eddie, we didn't talk too much on Eddie other than his intro, but he's okay here. He's definitely a character that is going to be more built upon going forward. But his intro here is okay. It sets up a love triangle scenario, which could be really good, could be horrendous, and I don't know which it will be. uh, I don't think any of the characters really break character other than Joe at a little bit. With how he treats Barry to heighten the drama, I think he acts a little out of character with what we have with him.
Mhm.
But other than that stuff, it wasn't too bad. So I think I will be giving it a 7.5. There wasn't too much wrong with it, other than little cuts like the peeing in a cup. That's a cut. That's not huge, but that's something. There's little nicks, but nothing too bad. So there you go.
Alrighty, Sprinks, why don't you go next?
Sure. I'll give my subjective. I enjoy it more than Arrow. I have my subjective at a 7. Um, I also read more Flash or intake more Flash stuff than Green Arrow, so I guess that's a little subjective of my own outside of the show. But yeah, I enjoy it. I like Barry. I think Barry's my favorite Flash out of Wally West and was it Jay Garrick and there's others, but I'm blanking. But I think Barry Allen's my favorite. I think that was actually brought up in our baseball draft. Uh, we discussed speedster usage. Objectively, my objective went down. I originally had it at a 7 and went to a 6.5. Uh, this talks from you two of things I think made not writing usage, but the things around worse of uh, situations. So, let's see, cinematography was decent. There was some good uses of it around, like the bank panning up to show like the glass above breaking down was cool. Um, just how they capture Barry running with shots, like the down shot of the street is cool. Um, Running in and out of Starling City, I think, is good for a wide shot. So the shots I think are all pretty good. I think the acting is 50-50. I think there's some really good acting and some really bad acting. I think Clyde's just a very like, here's your paycheck kind of actor. It didn't seem to have much emotion to it. Um, Eddie didn't really seem to have much to him to me in acting form. It was very just kind of like, I'm a good cop. Uh, but then like Joe had emotion behind him. Grant Gustin, I think, is great. Harrison Wells did well. Cisco and Kalen, not a lot in this first episode. Same with Oliver Queen, not a lot in this episode. They're all kind of just okay. The only thing I guess that helps with Kalen is her explanation why she doesn't smile. So yeah, just there's some middle ground. There's some high. There's some low. So acting's all right. Editing, I think editing's fine, paced well. My favorite thing I think about the editing, I really like that I didn't bring up, but maybe two of you can think on it. Of To me, it really felt like a comic book. Like a comic book pages were actually put onto screen of like following the story. Like you got the training of Flash for like 2 pages, and then it would cut to like what the bad guy's doing, or it would cut to Joe at work, like trying to like the side story situation. And it really felt like all that. And like the end when you get that you finish the page and there's that big full art of one of the covers of the comic, and then you flip it, and then on the last 2 pages is Harrison Wells in his secret room. And it's like, ooh, like tie in for the next comic book coming out. And that's, I think, the greatest thing of the editing to me of the whole pacing of the show felt like, and I really enjoyed that. That for some reason Arrow didn't really come across with that feel for me. um,
Yeah.
Writing was fine. There was a lot of cheesy stuff. There was some hard hitting stuff, like Harrison Wells kind of giving a speech to Barry. The first one of like, you're just a kid struck by lightning, versus the next one where he's like giving him encouragement. Uh, Joe giving the hard talk to Barry, which seems kind of really out of the blue, even though he respectfully listened to what he said, even though it was nonsense. Um, the Barry and his dad like tell him to move on, and like Barry's like, I didn't change my name out of respect for you. Like that to me really hit. I'm like, that's really good. Um, so yeah, there's some really good things I like about it, but there is some yucky stuff that weighs it down. The VFX kind of weigh it down. I know it's a little dated, but however, uh, the projection in the tornado not really good. The Michael Bay car explosion, the plane explosion at the beginning that looked really like the depth of field on that was not lined up. It didn't look like a model plane, but it just didn't look good. Um, I think the best thing I don't even it, I'm gonna say it's a special effect is the door that Harrison Wells uses. I'm like I'm sure that's an effect and not an actual functioning door they made.
Yes, that's an effect.
That's an effect. Okay, yeah. I'm like that looked really good to me. I think that's the best FX looking. Barry's speed just running around looks fine to me. It doesn't look bad. And I like that it focuses more on him running fast than showing everything moving slow around him kind of look. Um, so yeah, so it's 6.5.
Fair enough.
Before uh, I am adjusting my score.
Oh,
I'm not waiting for the recap. Um, I said
Yeah,
7.5
7.5.
objective, correct?
Yes,
yes.
you
Yeah,
did.
that's going down to a 7.
Oh,
Okay.
what
I
happened?
I I I I forgot about all the cop stuff. The cop stuff was bad. With like the cop trying to run over the two of them, and should I had another example, but cops were bad, and I forgot the
The
Oliver
warrant.
Queen bit because that was poorly executed in terms of this being isolated as a new show pilot.
Yeah.
Uh, so all of that. There you
I have a
go.
quick question for you, Crimson, because I don't remember what was your arrow score.
It was a 7.5 objective
Yeah.
and
Mine
a
was mine was a seven,
6 sub.
right?
Yours
Arrow.
was indeed a 7.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to keep mine contextualized here within that score because I do. Well, I'll start with my objective since I'm already on it. I do think the Flash is objectively worse than Arrow. Um, it's not by a huge margin, but there are more nicks here than there was in the uh, Arrow pilot. And I think the Arrow pilot just gets the benefit of being the origin to the universe or this DC universe, which I think helps because we got a lot of world building problems here. Um, with regards to how the outside world is functioning within the context of it works well within the context of I guess the universe itself, but isolated here, I do consider the Arrow bit part of the world building. It's very shoehorned in, like you're just dropped in, like, oh, there's another hero here. Yeah, that's a problem. Um, it would have helped with a little more build up with conversations in the Arrow team. Something you could have flashback to when he met the Arrow team, even if it was briefly while he was running the Starling City. Um, that's kind of an issue. I think the plot. I think Spring said feels very comic booky. I wouldn't know because I guess my example tool that I point to for a comic book come to life on screen is always going to be Spider Verse. Um, so uh, there is definitely it definitely has a basic structure. The plot. The pilot has a goal to accomplish, and it achieves that goal. I think very distinctly in that Barry is uh Barry was not the Flash and now he's the Flash, so he has to kind of get accustomed to the new world that he is gonna be a part of. And we got intros to a lot of the melodrama, or well, I say melodrama, a lot of the drama. I'm just gonna put that as a base between all the characters. And I think the plot achieves all the goals that it sets out to do. Sometimes it does it poorly, like with having a Clyde Martin unnecessary action sequence in the middle, with an exploding car and cops nearly killing pedestrians. Um, there is, yeah. So plots a okay. I think it's very standardized, but it works. I don't really see too much wrong with it, outside of some minor nitpicking that could be done. The world building, I think kind of already brought up that I have there's not a lot of issues with regards to broadly, but a lot of issues in isolation to this episode. So that does bring the score down. And now I'm going to move on to characters a little bit. I'll start with what we know about the Star Labs crew because we don't get much of them in this episode. Cisco is obviously the more tech savvy one. He's more laid back when compared to Caitlin. He smiles a lot. He's a bit of a geek. You can just look at his t-shirts, which add into the geek factor. I think he wears a Big Bang Theory shirt at some point in this episode, and he wears a Pac-Man shirt. And that's very much helping to character build for him. Um, he is also the one that wants to help repair the reputation of Star Labs more directly by doing community service, which is the firefighter suit. I quite like that. Dr. Caitlin Snow is kind of the opposite. She's the straight laced one. She's not as happy go lucky. She's got, her career took a downturn. Her husband died, and she also feels guilty over what Star Labs has done, but she's not as forward about it. However, it's one of the more subtle things I like about this pilot episode that I picked up on this watch through. Um, is her guilt because she ultimately joins the team at the end to help out, and she does so in quite not necessarily an enthusiastic way, but in way quickly enough to convey the fact that she does feel guilty. I think over the whole Star Labs explosion. I'll move on to Joe. Joe is kind, caring, covers for Barry, lets Barry get away with a few things. He's pretty much loves his adopted son. We see that when he greets Barry back at the police force. And we got a little bit out of character stuff for him, both with his 180 flip at the end to believing that Barry's dad is innocent, and to him being angry at Barry for giving, I guess, his research into impossible theories and stuff like that. He flips out a little too quickly, and he flips 180 too quickly. Funny enough, though I do like that he's irrationally angry when it comes to family. That is a character trait that is consistent for the rest of the show. Though with it here, he comes across as not a great detective, with a more emotionally driven aspect when it comes to family. So I think he's well characterized, but unfortunately, a lot of his conversations come off as unnecessary melodrama, which I think does damage his character a little bit. Um, Iris has feelings for Barry, uh, is ignorant of feelings for Barry. She is capable of persuading her dad of a lot of things, except obviously for the fact that she couldn't join the force. She's the one that ultimately, it's kind of played up that they're both playing Joe West and kind of letting them go see the particle accelerator launch. And she very much likes to keep up appearances for her dad when it comes to dating her new boyfriend Eddie, because she doesn't want to involve her dad in unnecessary drama, which is, funnily enough, exactly what Joe West does for Iris. Doesn't want to involve her in specific facets of drama, so it's a good family character trait that they both share. We know where she gets it from. I like that. We don't really get much characterization from Barry's mom other than that she's a good person, so I'm just going to table that and say she's a good person. It sucks that she died. Um, his dad, they have a very strong core relationship with Barry. He's very much wanted his son to move on, but Barry's unwilling to move on. It kind of strengthens the bond that they have. I think an underrated line that's pretty cheesy is "You believing in me is all I need." I quite like that line with regards to Barry's dad, and it's good. I like it. Very quickly characterized as well. They're both good people, his parents, and so we kind of get we get the sense that a lot of Barry's sense of right and wrong comes from the two of them, which is nice. And he gets, can't really discount Joe. Joe helped raise him too. Um, Not really much for Eddie in this episode. He's a proud, pretty boy, dating Iris, but he is a decent person. Like he greets Barry when he's back at the precinct. So we know that Barry, if Barry's not personally important to him, he's important to the people he cares about, being Iris's as his girlfriend and his partner, which is Iris's dad and Joe. Harrison Wells. Very interesting introduction to Harrison Wells. I kind of had a back and forth with Crimson regarding the necessity of him overtly being a villain. Um, I don't know if I can criticize that without going into the whole show, so I'm gonna kind of skirt around that. Um, it's definitely a choice that they made that denies them options. I can't label it as bad, so it's now for now a middling thing. They made a clear choice. He's a victim of his own machine. Uh, refers to the machine or the particle accelerator as his life's dream. He also has a long game perspective on a lot of things. Clearly values science over potential heroics. But when Barry sticks his neck out to help people, he obviously is willing to help out as well. Um, Whether it be he feels guilty to with the pep talk speech, or he just realizes that he needs to protect Barry in order to get all those scientific achievements, will be determined in going into future episodes. Um, he has he's a guy from the future, so he clearly knows things, as we find out is his twist at the end. Uh, Pretty much the character trait I described in all caps was a liar. Um, but that's more for the meme thing. Barry, uh, very well characterized. I think the show does a very good job of characterizing him, even if it's a bit clunky on the dialogue sometimes. He's socially awkward. Uh, we get some hints at his abilities. You know, he can heal, he can run. Um, he stands up for people who are being bullied, which lends into why he wants to help people a lot. He has some PTSD over parents. It's kind of dropped on us that he has regular crazy theories within the context of this episode. Broadly, I think this is fine. However, individually, it's delivered through Joe, and I don't think it works as well. Um, Again, heading to Oliver, good choice within universe, but in isolation of the episode, it's out of place. I do think he breaks character a little bit with regards to the sciencey stuff. When he wakes up in Star Labs, he's just, I need to go see my family, which is something. But he just drops all the important stuff that's happening to him. And as a scientist, I think he would have acknowledged that a little bit more. And yeah, so it's a little nick to his character. I think overall, I'm at a 6.5 objectively for the Flash. And realizing I've inverted what I normally do subjectively, I'm at a 7. I rewatch the show as background noise probably once a year now. It's rare that I sit down to watch it all the way through, like give it my full attention because I've seen it and slash heard it so many times. Um, yeah, I definitely enjoy it still. I like it as background noise. I enjoyed the show while I was watching it, and I enjoyed the first episode. Pulls me into the world. So 7.
Fascinating. Huh.
Mhm. So you have the same score
Matching
as
scores.
Ryder?
Yep. All right, gentlemen. Well, if that's all, shall I read us out?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, audience. Thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Samsung, and iHeartRadio. And if you're on our visual side of things, watching our PNG YouTubers on either Rumble or YouTube, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a geeky writer,
I'm Carson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.